get him too. That might be 3 of the 3. But they have a way of repopulating.
You think they make those up?
Quickly. Short-armed it.
Boy, I started to light your finger up, buddy. You boys are from Africa. You're used to insect problems.
For your thoughts. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by the Looking Glass Duck Club Podcast. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
I'm guessing, I'm guessing Logan never called you
He
back.
did. He called me last night at 9:45.
Oh, okay, good.
He said, Jeff, I am a terrible friend. I'm sorry. He said, but I'm busy as shit right now. I said,
It is
"It's no big
fertile.
deal."
It is.
He said, I'm busy.
It's
He said,
busy season.
I feel bad. He called me at the house. He phoned even. He said, I felt so bad. He called me on my house phone.
Wow.
I said, listen, I understand, son. You're just not a good friend, I guess, but I understand. No. Busy. With us today, my good friend, Lewis Henderson, grew up in Abernathy, went to Texas Tech, very successful insurance salesman in Dallas-Fort Worth, retired now, travels all over, hunts, fishes, loves wine, food, big boobs, and having a good time. Did I cover everything pretty good there, Lewis?
Pretty good.
Threw in the old big boobs, though. Did you see that? You catch that one?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
I made sangria the other night, and I'd used a cab, and I think I used the wrong wine. I think I'd use a Merlot next time.
Merlot works real well with it,
Yeah.
and fresh limes,
Fresh limes?
fresh oranges, fresh limes.
Yeah.
Traveling bartender right
I
here.
did. I did a cab. It wasn't as sweet as some that I had done in the past, but I got to the wine section, and we were talking about this just the other day. Wine has exploded. Like there's so many different wine companies, and I didn't know what to do. I panicked.
Well, you said you were making sangria, but it
Yeah.
works pretty well to use real sangria, and you tone it back a little bit with fresh limes and lemons.
Right. So
And
just
it's
get
really good that way.
So
get
buy a
the-
bottle of sangria?
Yeah,
I don't like wine, but I do like sangria.
I love
well, because
sangria.
it's sweet.
It's good. And we had some sangria in, was it Memphis, Knoxville, Nashville? Where the hell were we at?
Knoxville.
It was Knoxville.
Is that the hotel?
Yes, they had sangria there. And they had a light sangria.
Yeah, they had
a- with white wine.
yeah.
And it was good. Both of them were really good. But at Shelby and Zach's wedding, they had sangria.
Yep.
And they went through a bunch of that stuff.
Because it was hot and it was good.
Andy got a little sick.
It was
that
hot
night.
out. I didn't get sick. It was hot outside, and the wine was just, it was perfect.
No, your dog got sick that night.
My dog got
Yeah,
sick.
Lou
that
ate some
night.
raw chicken that was bad, and Andy come home to a house full of dog problems.
Dog excrements.
Before we get into all this stuff with Lewis, I'm going to ask your opinion. You're a smart guy. A very smart guy, and a really good friend of mine. And I respect you a lot, and I've called you lots of times over lots of things because I
Mentor.
respect your opinion. Yeah, mentor. That's a good word for you. Started buying insurance from you 30 years ago when I got in business. That year one.
Has it been that
It was
long?
30 years, 31 years. But my question has nothing to do with insurance or hunting. I want your opinion on something. And it's going to come out here, and I'm going to ask Ronnie Jackson because I think he's going to be on the podcast with us next week, my congressman, the same thing. The Pentagon. I've been doing more and more on this. I'm kind of getting into this conspiracy shit more and more.
I've drug him to the deep waters.
I don't think a plane hit the Pentagon. I think a missile hit the Pentagon. What are your thoughts on that? Because they didn't find one bit of an airplane part there. Not
Did they
one.
find one bit of a plane part in the World Trade
Yes,
Center?
they found the engines
They did?
even. Yes.
Okay.
But they mysteriously found Muhammad's fucking driver's license in the yard of the Pentagon that stole the airplane. That's all they found. That was it. And some bitch flew out of his fucking wallet, out of his pocket, and just mysteriously landed right there on the green grass.
Well, I guess you're up on that more than I am, but I heard a senator that just this week on a talk show that was like 12 feet from it when it hit and had a concrete wall between him that saved his life. And he had an amazing story, but something hit it. I guarantee that.
The Scud missile did. Here's the thing. I don't know much about flying a 737 737, 747, whatever the fuck they flew into this thing. Probably a 737. But they flew it 4 feet off the ground or 6 foot. An aeronautical expert. Now, you can get experts that can say anything. I could be an expert on waterfowl hunting, and some guy could tell you I'm a complete dumbass. So it doesn't, I mean, expert's a really broad scope there. Not an engine drug the ground. There's not a skid mark on the grass anywhere. Also, whoever did it missed 2 poles in the parking lot by about 6 inches on both sides of that airplane. It was a hell of a pilot. But nothing touched the ground until it hit that wall. And they said if a plane was flying that low to the ground, a jet, they're going to be dragging something's going to hit the ground. There would be trails on the dirt going into the Pentagon, and there's none.
The Pentagon's only 5 floors tall.
Yes.
And I'm looking at it. So here I can pull up a picture. I mean, it would take a very skilled pilot to drop to a level to where he can maintain altitude and fly into that.
And not take out these power poles.
Right.
So what happened to the plane then?
That's my question. Where are those people? Does our government is evil. I hate to tell you that.
I agree entirely. And there's so much they know that we never know.
So they vaporized a plane somewhere with a bunch of people on it. I mean,
what was the plane that went missing not too long ago?
The Malaysian flight. But a plane took off from either JFK or Logan Airport. I can't remember where the plane went. The Pentagon took off from. It's gone, just gone, with 250 souls on that thing. And they're telling these poor families that that plane flew into the Pentagon. That plane did not fly into the Pentagon. $3 trillion were missing.
Rumsfeld said that on 9/10.
Yes. And his office blew up with all the paperwork and shit on it. Mysteriously. So, and the more I read and pay attention, it's funny, the older you get, the more you start catching on to this shit. And you realize the government, they lied about shooting John F. Kennedy. If they'd kill our sitting president, the CIA, you don't think they'd vaporize a plane with some people on it to try to cover up some money that's missing? So that was my question for you before we got into your story, which is a remarkable story. Do you think that
there were bad actors on 9/11 within our own government?
There probably was, but we're never going to know in our lifetime.
No,
probably not. Andy may in his, because after 50 or 60 years,
but
the
I think
CIA's
everybody
probably
said
come
that.
out and say, because now they've admitted they killed John F. Kennedy.
Well,
they have,
sorta.
No, but they're not covering it up much no more.
Along those same lines, I don't know why we're not hearing the word treason today with a lot of people that have been in office and are in office.
Because they control the media. If you control the narrative that it comes out on, but it's been going on forever. You know how easy it was to control the media when you had ABC, NBC, and CBS? It was easy.
This bad stuff was going on back when George Washington was there too.
That's right, but it was
They've
easier.
all been in it for profit.
But it was easier to control it then. Now with the internet and stuff, it's harder. You can censor it, but you can't get out. Like my fat ass in Knox City, Texas, talking about this shit is going to be all over the world. We have people all over the world that listen to our podcast. We're getting 5 million downloads this year. Somebody's going to listen to this thing. It's going to and someone's going to go home and look up YouTube and look that shit up. The thoughts are on it. We were at Ground Zero this weekend, and while we were there, I was looking around at stuff, and I was looking at the buildings that didn't fall down, that didn't get hit, but World Trade Center 7 that didn't get hit by a plane, somehow it mysteriously just crumbled. It was World Trade Center 7, wasn't it?
Tower number 7.
Tower number 7 just fell by itself, didn't get hit by a plane.
Right.
Well, why didn't all the motherfucking buildings right around there not fall down? I stood in a church that was built in 1770 or something right there. Well, to me, it seemed like it would fall down if a brand new building across the street just happened to just fall down by itself. So powers that be are very powerful to have shit like that happen.
Well, and the owner of Tower 7 mysteriously took out a different insurance policy that would cover acts of terrorism. He didn't have that before. Yeah. But like in July or August, somehow he smartened up and changed his insurance policy on Tower 7. And then it miraculously fell without even being hit by a plane.
Well, I bet you wish you'd have sold him that policy, huh? I bet there's some big commission.
Well, I'd hate to have it on my loss runs, though.
You hate loss, don't you? Okay, let's talk about Lewis Henderson.
Does anybody like loss?
Well, if you own insurance, you want to collect on it. As an insurance agent, you don't ever want your people to have to collect money.
I'm betting it won't happen, and you're betting it might.
That's exactly right. That's what I look at.
There's a guy that I follow now, and he claims he can accurately predict when you're going to die. And his old job was life insurance companies would hire him and his team, and he would look at everything, your blood work, your family's history, and that's where he gained the knowledge of how to accurately predict somebody's lifespan. Because as life insurance, like you look at it as how many months am I going to collect their monthly payment before I have to pay out? So is this person a good investment on my end or not? And that was this guy's job. And now he's taken it and kind of ran with it in the private sector.
They've always done that.
Right.
They've always had actuaries that tried to do that. And there is a sort of a science to it, but nobody really knows.
Pull this down. Just
pull it towards you.
We'll pull
like
it
that.
down just a little. Yep, there you go. Right there.
You know, I would like to take out life insurance on anybody named Bootsy, Thug Nasty, or anything that's a rapper in Chicago, because those guys' lifespan is not very good if you're a street rapper there.
Right.
And so if you could get a commission, you can't buy life insurance on someone else, though, can you?
There has to be an insurable interest.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Say I was financing a building for you.
Mm-hmm.
I could buy a life insurance policy on you to pay me back in case you died.
In case
But you can't go buy someone that you think, like Britney Spears, she's psycho. If you wanted to go buy $1 million life insurance policy on Britney Spears, you can't do that.
No, you can't.
And
Can I buy it on Jesse?
yes, that's your wife.
Yeah.
I can.
You have insurable interest.
And it's going to cost you somewhere down the line to raise your kids and replace her.
Theoretically.
That keeps you from going to hospice and writing up insurance policies on everybody in hospice.
Well, yeah.
Well, but then you have the actuaries that's going to check that. And there's companies that do write people that already have cancer and stuff, but when you read the fine print, it's not going to do anything but pay you your premium back the first 2 or 3 years. And so they're going to have to live 8 or 10 years before you could ever collect.
I didn't know you could get insurance on that, but that makes sense. I've always, with the insurance, while we're talking insurance, the medical stuff, you know, if you've got someone that works for you, let's say a big company has got 200 employees, and one of them's got a kid that's sick with a deadly disease or a spouse or something, why does the insurance company want to cut that? They know they're going to lose their ass on that deal.
Well, the people survive it, and so there are companies that specialize and will take chances on it. But like I say, the fine print and the policy's only going to return your premium.
No, I'm not talking about life insurance. I'm just talking about if you've got a kid that's got a disease, a deadly disease, or just a very sick, a kid that's got to be on blood transfusions or got to have kidney dialysis or whatever that be. It's a sick kid. He's got to go to the hospital all the time and have treatments and stuff, and he's a rider on someone's deal. Well, I don't blame the insurance company for not wanting to cover that because they're going to lose their ass. Kid's going to have $1 million a year bill.
But they have to do it now because of the law.
Right. And I feel for people that have that problem.
You have to give insurance to somebody that's
If you've been insured and have this problem and you want to change to another company, you can do that as long as you were insured. Now, if you haven't been insured and go to a new company, it might be 3
different.
months, 6 months, a year before they'll cover it.
Right.
But they've got to take you and they'll cover it.
And that's part of the government got involved with that, with like
Right,
pre-existing conditions and stuff like that.
That's part of the pre-existing conditions laws.
But that's another thing that like the government is coming in and they're telling businesses, no, you have to, like, that's bad business from an insurance standpoint. That's terrible business practices.
Right.
That's why your premiums go up.
It's built into the rates. You're paying more because of that.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, great. But that's just another one of those things where the government's come in and they're like, oh, no, you have to do this, no matter if it's going to cost you money in the long run or not as a private business owner.
Right.
I had this same conversation with a little boy in town here that passed away that was sick. We talked about this one day. And he was in college at the time, and we talked about it. He goes, well, how is that fair that I can't get insurance? I said, it's not fair. But I said, it's not fair for a pool to have to pay a lot more money to insure someone that's really sick. I said, I hate government intervention on anything. I think the government should have an insurance set aside where the government pays for people that are sick and have a a fatal disease of any sort. I said, and I hate our government, but I said, I don't have a problem with that. Everybody that's got cancer, if our government had a pool that they paid for, if you just went to the government insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, whatever it was, and gave them good quality insurance or health care and covered them, I don't have a problem with that. But I don't think it's fair for an insurance company to have to take a $2 million loss on anybody, knowing that they're going to hit a $2 million bump on that regardless.
I agree with what you're saying, but the concept of a pool through the government would never work. We had one once. It was called Social Security.
Yeah.
And they spin it.
Yeah, I got you there. You're right. You got me there. The Ukraine money should have went to Social Security.
113 billion.
I want to know who done that. Who decided? What year did they rob Social Security?
I think it might have been during Nixon's term or
Gerald Ford's.
Or Ford's, somewhere.
That's where they robbed
in
it.
that area.
So Joe Biden was part of this because he was on Congress.
And if you'd have done that as a private citizen with your retirement program for your employees, you would have gone to jail.
Yep. But Joe Biden was in the Senate then too. So that's when they did it and they took Social Security. See, that's the problem. That's why I get sick and tired of hearing about it as an entitlement. It's not. It's your money.
Right.
You know, and they screw you out of it every possible way. I don't understand.
1983
is when they did it. So it was under Ronald Reagan.
Well, as a result of changes to Social Security enacted in 1983, benefits are now expected to be. Well, hold on, that might not be it.
No,
but this is saying that is expected to be depleted by 2034. There's not.
Oh, good, because I'm supposed to be able to get on it in 2035.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
There's not supposed to be any more money.
That's about right.
2034 Social Security is bankrupt. So,
what's not fair is if you take your Social Security. How old are you, Lewis?
74.
74. So you're on your Social Security.
Yes.
Okay. If you pass away, does Ann get your Social Security check?
No, because she was a teacher and she's got teacher retirement, so she's not eligible.
That's stupid. Well, that has nothing to do with teacher retirement. I don't understand that either. I also don't understand that if I pass away, Michelle doesn't get my check and her check. She only gets one of the checks.
It's the larger one.
That's bullshit. She should get both of them. She's a survivor. It's our money. And what's bad is people like us have just let them accepted this and okay, that's what we'll do. It's bullshit.
Well, we don't have a choice. The government changes the rules and we have to live by it.
Yeah, and it's bullshit. Because when I first got a Social Security card, and I went to cross from Central Fire Station in Wichita Falls, the Social Security office when I'm home, and I got my Social Security card, and I was probably 5, 6, 7 years old. I remember all the paperwork, and I could read when I was little, and I read a lot, and it said, by God, Jeff Stanfield, you can retire full retirement at 62 years of age.
Yep.
Well, they fucking have changed that.
Well, we're also
now?
living longer.
Well, it doesn't matter. That was the rules when I was there.
Well,
if they want to change the rules, they should grandfather you in. They should grandfather you in. If it's now 74, then you're born now. You don't get to do it till you're 74. But if I was told when I first got a Social Security card in 1962, I could full retirement, then I didn't grasp it. Well, now that's only looking 7 years down the road. Now I'm not going to retire anyways, but I ought to be able to collect all my money.
You have to retire to collect Social Security?
No. You can collect your retire. You get a percentage of it.
You reach a certain age, and you can get the amount you're entitled to at that age, regardless how much you work. But right now, I believe it's 67. If you retire prior to 67, you only get a percentage. It's offset by what your income is. And at 67, you can get your retirement there, and you can get another retirement if you wait until you're 70 or 72. I don't know the rules exactly.
Social Security was a great idea. I mean, America was smart enough to realize, like, we're going to have an older class and, they're too stupid to save for their retirement, and then they're going to be a burden on the system. So, like, let's just take their money and be good stewards and hold it.
But the stewards part's what went away.
And then it all went kaput.
People that really came out on it were people like my granddad that didn't have to contribute but 2 or 3 years, and he retired.
Yeah.
And
the first lady
for many years.
The first lady, like, she put in I'll find it, but she put in a very, very
15 days
small amount, and then like she started drawing it, like Jeff said, like a month later or whatever, and she was a big beneficiary of it.
The deal is, though, is you meet someone in town, you find someone that's 85 or 95 years old, and their Social Security check's $412 or some shit.
Right.
I mean, and the cost has went so far up on that, and like my grandfather passed away at 99 years of age. Well, he retired from General Motors when he was 57 or 58 years old, and he got Social Security when he was 62. And he beat the actuaries together because he was retired longer than he ever worked, and he was very fortunate. But not most people don't have that. What pisses me off is guys like my father-in-law that gets lung cancer and is dead in 4 weeks. Never ever collected a dime of Social Security, but paid in his entire life.
She paid $24.75, and in total, she received $22,000, a smidge under $23,000.
Well, she can have Charlie's because he never collected a dime and he paid in for his whole life. So there's tons of people like that. Michelle's dad died of lung cancer, never collected a dime, died at about the age of 70, was waiting until the 72 deal, died, never collected a dime. Michelle's brother got killed in a car wreck, head-on collision, and he was 42, 43, 44 years old. He'd been working since he's 18 years old, so he paid in for 24 years, never collected a dime. That money just goes to the government. That money, now...
Well, it's gone.
It's gone. But still, that money, like her dad paid in all them years, and they never did it. And this is the way I believe. I believe that money should be stuck to the side, and if you paid in $138,000, your heirs should get a check for $138,000. I've thought that forever. I don't care who it is. And because there's very few cases where there's someone passes away, there's more people that die that never collect a dime of Social Security than ever collect Social Security.
Yeah.
They're supposed to get.
Originally, it was supposed to be a fund.
Yes.
Like a savings account.
And I believe it was the 60s or 70s that the government decided, well, let's just use that money in our general operating.
Yeah, and we'll
bill,
start
and
kicking back.
And they spent it. And it was growing fast enough with the baby boomers and their kids working and contributing that it didn't look like they'd ever run out of money. But then they come along and added Medicare and
more social programs.
More social programs to it that used up more and more of it, along with the workforce is actually declining because all these baby boomers are retiring now, and there's not enough people to replace it and continue. And that's the reason it's going to run out, because our population's not growing.
Well, also, you take. I lost my damn train of thought.
But that's the same thing the bank did essentially. Like they take any money that you deposit into a bank, they turn around and loan it out, right? Like 80% of the money that you deposit, they can loan out. And that was the same thing Social Security did, right?
Yeah, you go to Citizens Bank right here in Knox City.
If you got $1 million in the bank and you said, "Hey, I want to pull my $1 million out," you're not getting it out that day.
If everybody in Knox City that had, let's just say Knox City has $50 million in assets at the bank. I have no clue what they got. They may have $5 million, they may have $5 billion. But anyways, if everybody in town decided to go down there and get their cash out of the bank,
you're screwed.
Yeah, you're fucked, because they probably only keep 5 to 10% of what they're. I'll bet. I think they have to have 20% of what's on the sheet. If Knox City has got 50 million, I could call LaDonna and ask her. I'm just curious. But if they've got 50 million in assets there, I'll bet you right now that there's not $1 million cash in that vault. Would you think so, Lewis?
I know there's a small percentage,
but I bet it's not 10%. I bet it
is 10%. The law is currently the margin reserve requirement equal 10% of the bank's.
So if they've got 50 million in deal, they've got to have 5 million in cash up there.
Right.
That'd be a bank robber. I'd be hitting these little small town banks.
They had a movie about that, I think.
A Hell in High Water?
Yeah.
It was a pretty good movie, too. I'd had a damn thought about this Social Security. I can't remember what the hell it was. Anyways, I know what it was. Our great, great, great former president from Texas, George fucking Deep State Bush, he wanted to actually change the Social Security where you did get a lump sum, if my memory serves me correct, and they would not put it on the House floor to vote. But I think that's one of the things when he ran, he talked about doing.
He had a lot of good ideas, but he still wasn't conservative enough for me.
There's only one president that we've had in our lifetime that really tried to do what he said he was going to do. You know, even Kevin McCarthy forgot about getting rid of the IRS agents and his shit. And our congressman did vote no on that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I sent it to Mom. 41.
He texted me. He said, I voted no.
41 voted. 149 Republicans voted yes for the debt ceiling bill, and 71 voted no.
Get rid of every one of them cocksuckers.
So
I hate politicians.
We can tell.
Okay, Lewis Henderson. you grew up in Abernathy, Texas,
Yes.
which is a mecca in the plains of, how far is that from Abilene? I mean, from Lubbock?
20 miles north of Lubbock on the road to Amarillo.
And I'm assuming Lubbock, Texas, when you grew up, was a lot different than Lubbock, Texas is today.
It's about 150,000 people.
Is what it was then?
Yeah.
What's it got now? About 250,000 now?
I think so.
Yeah, maybe even up to 300,000.
Me and Michelle went to Lubbock the other day, and God almighty, every time I go there, it's growing like crazy.
261.
Okay.
So it's almost twice as big, not quite as this. How big was Abernathy when you grew up?
2,400.
What a perfect size town. 2 banks, 3 banks probably.
I only remember one bank.
1 bank. Did you grow up as a poor kid or a rich kid? Or middle class?
I thought I was middle class, but looking back on it, we didn't have much money.
So you were poor.
My dad probably never made more than $3,000 a year in his life.
What did he do?
He was a mechanic at the Chevrolet house.
And so you grew up just a regular kid in Abernathy, Texas.
Yes.
And you put yourself through Texas Tech?
Yes.
Did you get scholarships? You're a smart guy.
I didn't know there were scholarships, and I don't know that there was at that time. I just went.
What year did you
I
go?
went on the spur of the moment, really. I started in 1967, I guess, after I could. Well, no, it had been 68. But what I'd originally done, I was going to go to Denver, Colorado with my best friend, and we were going to go to Denver Electronics Institute and study radio and TV.
Well, you made a good choice on that deal.
And he had too much drink and went out and joined the Navy one Saturday night.
He joined the Navy on a night?
Well,
And the next
that
day?
weekend,
Yeah.
yeah, and tried to get me to go in on the buddy system, and I knew I didn't want to do that. And so I had to redirect my life, and I was thinking about going to Drones Business College in Lubbock, and it was going to cost me $1,100 to do that. And the guy that had married my cousin, Kenneth Fields, his family owned a chain of lumber yards in Lubbock, and he
Fields Lumber.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he was their accountant, and I didn't know until just recently he had actually graduated from Drones Business College. But he talked to me, and he said, if you go to Tech for 2 years and was to interview with me for a job, and I interviewed somebody, everything else the same, that graduated from Drones Business College, I would hire you because you were going to Tech. And so I decided, and I could finance that. Otherwise, I was going to have to borrow $1,100, which was all the money in the world in 1967.
Yeah.
And going to Tech, I could pay for that out of my pocket because tuition wasn't but $200-300 a
Lot
semester. you know,
Yeah.
$20 an hour.
Yeah.
And so I went to Tech. And after I'd been there 2 years, I was thinking about going out and making my life, but I was having a good time. So I decided to rough it out. And so I crammed 4 years into 5.
So you enjoyed college then?
I enjoyed college.
Did you live in the dorms?
No, I could not afford to live in the dorms. You were required to, and I'd gotten sick and gone to the infirmary, and they caught me. They sent a letter to my mother, and she went down there and told him he's paying for this himself, and he can live wherever he wants to. And they never said another word about it.
So you got to live off campus then?
Yes.
You told me a story about buying a barbecue sandwich one time, and I wish I remember what the fuck you told me that story.
We'd go to Pinky's Barbecue after a football game and buy a barbecue sandwich. I had 2 roommates, trying to remember his name, Max Barnes and Johnny Bumpus. And we was gone in Max's car, and we went in and we bought 3 barbecue sandwiches and a 6-pack of beer. And we were driving back into town, going to take them back to the house and have them. And Johnny carried the beer out, and I carried the barbecue sandwiches out, and Max that was driving didn't carry anything. When we crossed the county line, the LCB stopped us. because we were illegally transporting beer into a dry area because the driver did not carry it out of the liquor store.
Oh my goodness!
This is Pinky's liquor store. And
so he was watching y'all.
yeah, they watched us with binoculars. They told us where they were sitting and everything. And while we were sitting in the back seat getting tickets, my buddy got one because he carried it for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. This was like in December, and I was going to be 21 in April. And I got one for minor in possession. And while all this was going on, Max sat on the back of the car on the trunk and ate all 3 sandwiches.
At least, what'd they make you do with the beer? They pour it out?
They kept it.
They
It
kept
wasn't
it?
even opened.
No, we didn't have anything open.
You know, LCB. The young kids today don't know what the LCB is. When I grew up in Wichita Falls, the LCBs used to go down Kemp Street all the time in the same way. They'd
Was
go
that
park in the
liquor?
liquor control board, and they had white cowboy hats on, and they drove a blue car, a sedan, and you'd see in the shadows they'd be sitting there, and we'd fuck with them sometimes. We'd get, it'd be a parking lot like the Alberts. It used to be the Albertsons, or it's where the Olive Garden was. It was Fuddruckers then, and we'd pull in there and park. Well, there'd be fucking 100 cars there, a bunch of teenagers. And they'd be watching to see if you had beer. So you could get a Barg's root beer can, which looked like a Coors Light. And, they'd come in there and do their
And they were
shit.
silver?
Oh, fuck, they would. And you'd watch them. You'd see them down the street. Where we used to buy underage alcohol in Wichita Falls at Casey's Corner. The guy, John was the guy's name. I'll never forget this guy. And he'd come in. He said, the LCBs are down the street there, so you can't buy no beer tonight. But they knew. But they watched us. But it's college kids, almost 21, and they wrote y'all up for that shit.
Because Lubbock was dry for a long time, was it? Well, it was dry.
Lubbock
until
was dry
the
then.
It was.
and
It went wet when I was in college.
You had to drive
To
2
the
miles south
Broadway,
to
the strip.
the strip,
Yeah, the strip.
and had Pinky's barbecue and beer and liquor store. And
It was that way for 2 years
And-
when I was out there. And no, I like going to the strip because, it's kind of fun, and you got some roadies for the way back. But it was way more convenient when you could just buy it in town.
it was a trip. One day when we was in college, it snowed and we had to push the car all the way out there.
So you went to school at Lubbock in 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, basically.
Right.
Was Mac Davis already in Hollywood by that time, or was he still? Was there anybody? Because Lubbock, a lot of people don't know, Lubbock's famous for music. I mean, Buddy Holly's from Lubbock. Waylon Jennings is from out there. Mac Davis is out there, and I'm sure there's a bunch more I don't know about.
Mac Davis was known at the end of the end, and an interesting story. Later, a good friend of mine, Joe Zeiss, I wrote his insurance in the early 80s. He was in the construction business. He had graduated from SMU with a master's in theatrical set design, and he was stage manager for Mac Davis for 2 or 3 years back in those days, and traveled all over the country. And he quit and was in the construction business when I met him, and I wrote his insurance.
That's pretty cool. And Lubbock is, but a lot of people do not realize Lubbock has a big part of that music from that era. I mean, Buddy Holly was Buddy Holly. If he wouldn't have got killed in a plane crash, might have been the Elvis or the Beatles. That big. I mean, he was very talented. And Waylon Jennings,
All those people on that plane were talented.
Oh yes. Can you imagine Waylon Jennings? The last conversation you ever had with Buddy Holly was, "I hope you crash that damn airplane."
Yep.
Hope you do.
Yeah, he said
Hope your damn plane crashes.
He got bumped by the Big Bopper Richie Valley.
They flipped a coin.
Yeah, and he lost, and so he had to take a bus.
Oh.
And he said, "I hope you crash in that plane." And Buddy Holly said, "I hope you freeze on that fucking bus or some shit."
Eesh.
And then he died an hour later.
Yeah, he had to live with that for a long time.
Said it ate at him.
I've read about it.
Yeah, really bothered
did?
him for a long time. Yeah, big time.
But,
So
I'm sure he was just talking shit, and
Yeah.
he didn't expect that to happen. Waylon Jennings from Littlefield.
right, but he
Right.
played with the Crickets.
Yeah.
Well, it was Buddy Holly and the Crickets, wasn't that this band called?
I think so.
I think it was. So you go to Tech, you graduate Tech. What made you get in the insurance business?
Guy I worked for had a friend that worked for Employers Insurance, and he interviewed me. And I had a degree in accounting and had interviewed for accounting jobs. And when I went to college, I knew there was one thing in life I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be a mechanic like my dad.
Yeah.
Because I hated getting my hands dirty. And so after I graduated from high school, I had a degree in accounting. I interviewed for accounting jobs. And after doing that, there was two things in life I didn't want to do. And the other one was be an accountant. And so I interviewed with this guy, and he hired me to be an underwriter for Employers Insurance of Texas. And I didn't even know what an underwriter was back then. I didn't even know how to spell it hardly. And another good mistake in my life.
Was learn how to be an underwriter?
Learning about insurance.
And so you was an underwriter for them for a long time.
I was an underwriter for from 1971 to 1978, I think.
What would that pay?
I went to work at $625 a month.
So $7,500 a year, basically.
Yep.
And then
And you could live off of that back then.
Yes.
I mean, you weren't rich or anything. But
car payment was $250, $275. Your rent was $400 or $500 a month, and you lived on the rest of it.
right.
And things were a lot different then.
Now Jeff had said when you were in the 70s, you thought the world was going to end every day.
Yeah, he told me
Things were
that.
so bad.
When
Jimmy Carter
was elected,
Yeah.
I just knew the world was going to come to an end, and I really think it nearly did with the inflation, the ridiculous inflation we had. It gives away the Panama Canal and a lot of our security, and giving away all this stuff sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yep.
it does.
But I've talked about that many times because I have said, Michelle's like, oh, things are just getting shitty. I was like, Lewis, it was just like this in the 70s. It's a cycle we're going to go through. You know, how many more fucking cycles can they keep rinsing us and shit? We're going to be done. But I've talked about that many times. A lot of things you say resonated in me a lot more than you thought they have. So you're an underwriter. Now,
And
you married better than most of us did. You married a doctor's wife, a daughter.
well, I thought they were rich, but they weren't. They're just like everybody else. They have to work for a living.
Yeah.
But they were great people, and we got along great. And I really enjoyed my in-laws.
And so you married a girl from Highland Park, right? Or Preston,
North Dallas,
North Dallas.
Inwood and Forest.
And so she grew up a different life than you grew up with.
Yes.
And so did you meet her at Tech?
Yeah, I met her at Tech Friday the 13th, the day before Valentine's.
Now her best friend was married to your best friend for a while, right?
That's where I met Steve Skinner. Her and Susan had grown up across the street from each other, and so nothing would do but we meet. And meeting Steve Skinner was like putting two bulldogs together. We didn't get along at all at the time, but eventually we were roommates for about 6 months before I got married. And then after we were out of school, we became best friends. And
Steve's still skinny?
that's what you can call him.
Steve's my attorney, so me and Steve and Lewis have a good relationship. So
Was he going? I guess when you met him, he was going to school to be
He
an
was
attorney.
he was going to Tech. No, he actually went in the warehouse business
Oh,
for less money than I did as an underwriter. He went to work for like $560 a month in the warehouse business.
really?
But they furnished him a company car and gas, and so he had some perks with it.
he
When
didn't
did
become
he-
an attorney till later in life, did he?
He was in his 30s, 35,
Yeah.
maybe even 40 when he became an attorney, because he got crossways with the boss, where the bosses were stealing money from each other, and they both blamed it on Steve stealing it, and he wasn't. And they said, we're going to fire you. And he said, you can't fire me because I quit. And so he left there and went into the real estate business when the Dallas real estate market collapsed, of course. And then he went into the business of selling septic systems and environmental protection systems for cities and plants. And then at the end of that, he went and got his law degree.
You got to that's got to be hard to be 35, 40 years old and go to law school or medical school. And I've known some people that do it. And I'm thinking, you've got your shit together better, and you're going to study more because you have no choices.
Well,
But God Almighty,
Steve's really smart.
he is a sharp guy, but still, that's tough.
And that's what made it possible. I couldn't have done that at that time.
I mean, it's hard to keep that balance because you have to work and stuff. It's not like you're going back 35 years old and living in a dorm or whatever it is. So you've got your family going. So you moved to Dallas, you get in the insurance business. So how'd you start your own company? How'd that all go to work?
Well, after being an underwriter for 6-7 years, I transferred to sales in about 1978. And then the night my daughter was born, April 1981, I decided I couldn't get to where I wanted to be in life, and I decided to quit my job, and I started a partnership with a life and health agent I knew, Keith Rousey. And we were getting referrals from employers' agents on business that they couldn't write, doing lots of health insurance and small businesses and things that they couldn't do. And at the same time, I was teaching classes at TCJC and different insurance classes. And I was teaching farmers agents, state farm agents, Allstate agents, Liberty Mutual agents, Employers of Wausau agents, John Hancock agents, lots of other agents. And I developed friendships with them where they would refer me business they couldn't write. And our phone was ringing all the time, writing small policies.
You told me one time that you would not go home at night until you at least sold one policy a day.
We tried to sell a policy a day. That was our goal.
How would you like? You wouldn't go home. You just stay up there, and what was it? Just burning down the phone, or like how's that work?
Well,
Cold calling.
I did very little cold calling because we got so many referrals. So I was working those referrals.
Right.
And when I say a policy a day, I might not write one today, but tomorrow I might write 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you write an entire account, that can be 4 or 5 policies.
Your goal was 5 policies a week.
Right. And we did that for many years.
Lewis also used to tell me all the time, he said, I don't sell people insurance, they buy it from me. Because I never ever, I met Lewis through Jim Kern on a deer lease, the Hamilton, which we've got all that stuff leased now. And we have off and on for that's 31 years. There'll be 31 years this year. And I think we've had that up there hunting for 29 years probably.
Yeah.
I met you about 29 years ago. But Lewis and his good friend Larry Kemp, who passed away, and Larry was a great guy up here, built the table that's in the dining room in there. Lewis and Larry were regulars around here for 29 years. And you and Larry came up and looked at a deer lease. And what was it? Knob? Is that Larry's brother?
Hob.
I always want to call him Knob. It's Hob. It's Hob. Came up and looked at a lease with Jim Kern. And I met you, and Jim told me, he said, listen, that's the guy you need to buy your insurance from. And I was like, okay. And so I talked to Lewis, and Lewis gave me his card, back when people gave cards.
Not anymore.
And called Lewis up, and Lewis wrote me our first insurance, covered the old lodge, and it covered our liability insurance. And that would have been in 1996, 97 probably.
Probably about then.
And that's when I met Lewis the first time.
That opened a lot of doors for you because it let you tell your farmers that you had insurance if anything happened.
Yep.
That's a big plus.
Yeah, every outfitter out there should have insurance. And you know what? I've had one guy in my lifetime that's needed to see a certificate of insurance from y'all. It was a guy in Oklahoma. That was it.
But
it's a good bargain.
We always had
you
it.
tell them and they take your word for it.
They always trust me. But my biggest farmers and ranchers I have never even asked me for the policy. I tell everyone that I deal with, listen, we got, because they'll be, well, you know, what's the difference between you hunting on my property and somebody else? Well, we have insurance. If anything fucking happens, you're covered. They're not probably. And not all of them, because, you know, like Justin, he's got it too. Most of our guys around here, they're big. But a lot of the fly-by-night guys don't have it.
Well, back when you started, especially
Nobody
5 years later, you were the only one that had it.
Yes.
And you had a bunch of fly-by-night competition.
Yes, and that was the big thing. They don't have insurance. But I always had. But it's funny, of all the big people I've had, that big ranches that I deal, banks, I've had trust funds and stuff, no one's ever asked for the actual certificate. And a guy in Oklahoma every year, well, I really need to get that certificate of insurance. So I'd give it to him, and Jackie would send it to him, and that was. But one guy in 30 years is ever the one that's ever asked for an actual certificate of insurance. But it did open up a lot of doors. Because we developed friendships from back then with the same people. You know, Scott Tarwater, who passed away last year, has been on our podcast, become a friend. And it's kind of funny because it was kind of a Knox City network of guys that we met from different deals, but y'all were here all the time and got to know everybody.
Yeah.
So you become a successful insurance agent. You owned your own. Then you started out on your own.
I started that partnership, and after about 9 years, my partner bought another agency because I didn't want to buy it as a partnership, and he bought it behind my back, and I felt like there was a conflict of interest. And so I sent him notice, and we split up at that time, and I incorporated. And that was about 93, 94.
And then that's when, so you just started a couple of years
No,
on your own.
take that back. It was, it'd been 11 years. So it was about, 92, 93.
So I met you a couple of years after that. I think I met you in 96 is when I bought my first policy off of you. And then you were on your own, and how did you meet Larry Kemp? Now, Larry is a good friend of Lewis's, or he's passed on, but he was a great Lewis's best buddy. And how'd you meet Larry?
I had gone on a cruise that I'd won selling insurance, and met these guys from Memphis, Tennessee, and they worked for Malone and Hyde Grocery, and they insured all the Piggly Wigglies in the state of Texas. And the guys they'd had working that was not handling the money properly, and so they made a deal with me to write the insurance and pay them a consulting fee for writing the insurance. And Larry Kemp was one of the Piggly Wiggly people that I met during this. And I wrote, they had like 11 of them, and I wrote like 9 of them.
Was he a pain in the ass to deal with at first?
Not really. He because he liked the Malone and Hyde people, or the warehouse he was dealing with, and they'd recommended me, so it went okay. But then we soon found out we had some common interest, and we started hunting together. We came up here and hunted, and then through Kern, we also started going to Big Bend, and we went to Big Bend like 12, 14 years hunting on the Pope Ranch and hunting mule deer, and had some great trips.
Now, I got invited to go out there a couple times, but I was always busy and never got to go. But one of the things that always interested me was the blue quail, the way y'all hunted them.
We would put corn out as we were driving around, and then when we'd come back in the middle of the afternoon, the blue quail were out there eating corn, and we'd shoot them out of the truck.
Smart. That's always sounded fun to me. And you'd shoot a mess of blue quail every year out there.
And they were great. And that's the way everybody hunted them out in that country. You can't hunt them with a dog because they're not going to stop.
And
the quail won't stop. They'll just keep blowing by.
They'll keep running.
Oh, really?
They run.
So they won't flush like a Bob White?
They won't stop and hold like a Bob White. They're going to keep running. And so if you're going to hunt them, you have to chase them and shoot while they're running.
And then there's snakes and everything else down there.
I never saw a snake, but they're supposed to be there.
Two funny things from back then is the names and nicknames. One of my favorite nicknames of all time was Noah. And I never met Noah that I can. Did Noah ever come up here?
He might have one time.
I don't know if I met Noah or not, but tell him the story about Noah.
Well, first time we went to Big Bend, I know you won't believe this, but Jim Kern had given us the wrong directions. He had also given Noah the same wrong directions.
He's consistent at least.
And as we're going down this road, there's this guy with a bass boat in the
middle of the desert.
In the middle of the desert, up in a seat in the bass boat with the binoculars scanning the horizon. And we're in 2 different vehicles, and we're talking on CB radios because we used them everywhere back then. And Larry says, "Let's stop here. I got to hear this story." And we stopped, and Noah says, well, we didn't know who he was. He says, "I'm hunting the emu deer camp. Y'all know where it is?" I said, "Well, we're hunting it too, and it's supposed to be right here." He says, "I see some dust over here. Follow me." And so there we are following this goofy guy pulling a bass boat through the desert. And sure enough, where this dust was other people knew where they were going, and we did find the place we were supposed to be going. And so because of the fact that he had a bass
Bass
boat,
boat and binoculars.
we nicknamed him Noah.
Noah.
Bass boat in the desert.
Didn't he fish out there also?
Oh, boy, there's lots of this. In fact, for years, I told Noah stories to my daughter as bedtime stories. And if we got time, I can tell you a few short ones.
Go ahead.
We got time. We got plenty of time.
So, anyway, we were there, and the reason he bought the bass boat is he wanted to buy a trailer to take on this trip. And his wife says, "You don't need a trailer. You got that damn boat out there. Just use it."
Right.
And so that was his trailer. And so he had his tent and stuff in there. And he was staying up on the hill. We had tent trailers down below, and Jim Kern had a bunch of other guys. And, like I don't remember the names, probably shouldn't even say them.
Yeah.
Because there's some of your boss's competitors.
No, they're
then.
not competitors. It was the boss. It was Sketch Mason that owned Bismuth, the original Bismuth.
Yeah, and them and a bunch of their friends were staying on the hill.
They hunted the same place.
And they didn't, Noah just couldn't get along with them, and we had a big campfire, and he comes down there. And so he's staying down there with us around the campfire, pitches a tent, and then one night about 2:00, we hear this ruckus out there, and hear Larry yell at Hobbs, says, "What's going on?" He says, "It's that damn Noah pulling that boat around the trailers here, and if we don't get him headed, he's going to run smooth dab over us." And then he starts up a hill, and the boat comes off of it as he goes up this steep hill. But he gets it back on there and disappears. This is before the hunt even started. And so later on, next day, he's telling us about going, and he found a stock tank, and the ranch foreman had 11 bass in the stock tank. And he backed that boat up there, got in that back seat, and he caught every one of them and turned them back loose. And he said, and one of them was dumb. I caught it twice. And we went and looked the next day, and you could tell their lips were bloody. and then he had also talked about spending the night on a pond. And we found this pond that had cattails as tall as this ceiling, probably 9-10 foot tall, not cattails, cuckleburs, as tall as this ceiling, where he had backed that boat in there to the edge of the pond, but the water wasn't deep enough to launch it. So he just parked it there and got out, got his sleeping bag, and slept on the shore. And then for about 3 or 4 days, he was telling us when he woke up, there was this bird about 2 foot tall that was brown that was right there next to him getting a drink of water. And I couldn't figure out what it was. I was thinking it might have been a chakalaka. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it for 3 or 4 days, which later on we're driving and he's with me, and these blue quail are running up there that we were fixing to shoot. He said, there it is, that's what I saw. I said, "No, that's a blue quail, and it's not but 8 or 10 inches tall." He says, "If you're laying down and looking up at it, it's taller than that."
Is Noah still with us?
Noah's still with us. He spent the night with me 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I'll be damned.
If you're laying down, it's a lot taller than that.
Now you and Larry went everywhere, and Larry, y'all had a deer lease up here, so I saw y'all every weekend, and you owned all the property around the lodge. You bought it, and you built the lake down here.
And I want to thank you for making me buy that.
Well, I wish you still owned it. The guys that own it now are great guys too, and they're good people. But it was a good job on your part. I'm glad you did. But you transformed this whole place, and you've done that. You flip property all the time. You say right now you're on your last one, but I don't buy that shit. Have you selling it yet?
No, my daughter won't let me sell it, but I'm looking for a good deal.
Yeah, he always is. Lewis will buy property and flip it, and then I'm going to tell you right now, the game, about 10 years ago, you remember I told you about buying waterfowl stuff and putting flooded corn on it and doing it? My big mistake. We should have followed up on one of them, because that is the money thing. Anyways, you and Larry got to be good friends, and y'all went all over and hunted everywhere. And Larry passed away. How long's Larry been dead? 10 years?
2010.
So 13 years ago. And I miss Larry. Larry was a good old guy. Y'all went everywhere together. Y'all were on a trip on 9/11.
Yes. We were in Alaska. Larry was moose hunting, and I'd just gone along for the ride, and I was fishing, and I was in the camp, and I was cooking and just having a good time of my life. They flew us in on 9/11 early in the morning,
Right.
like at daylight, and because we'd stayed in base camp overnight, and then they flew us to our outland camp on a river called Blue Violet down on the peninsula near Port Haydn, and we had our staples, our flour and bread and grease and stuff like that, maybe some eggs, but we didn't have our meat or anything, and the pilot was going to bring it back the next day. He didn't show up for 3 days.
Oh shit, he had a crash.
And we didn't know what had happened. And, and weather could come in instantly, and it could be scary flying those small planes. In fact, he flew us in one at a time in a little cub. And first time he was landing with me, he had to pull up because he said, I can't land. There's a badger on the runway. And so anyway, we were there, and he finally shows up. We have a radio that we can communicate, and he's telling us about what had happened everywhere at the towers. And I'd never even heard of the Taliban.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's a name you don't hear no more either.
no,
I'm out.
killed them all, I hope. But he tells us all about it. So we go ahead and spend our 2 weeks there. Larry gets a moose, and I'm catching 2 to 4 pound Dolly Varden trout and trading them to the camp for whiskey. And we
Trading them to where?
to the main camp. It was
Oh.
about 10 minutes away by air,
Right.
but it was a long way that you probably couldn't have walked across the rivers and through the swamps. And
So you
And
give them
everything.
fish and they'd give you whiskey.
yeah,
Really? That's neat.
and it was best fishing I've ever had in my life, I think. And so Larry gets his moose. We fly back. We fly into Anchorage, and it's like a ghost town.
Yeah.
We're walking the streets of Anchorage, and there's nobody there except a few people, few store owners. And there's no tourists, no nothing. Everybody had left. And so we got left, and you can't believe the way they searched everything.
Oh, I bet.
Going through our dirty laundry. I felt sorry for those people.
2 weeks on a mountain.
Isn't that crazy, though, to be somewhere after something like that happens? Because after they shut the world down at COVID, me and Michelle were up northeast. We've been at New York City, and we went to Niagara Falls. And this is no shit. There was 7 people at Niagara Falls. That was it. I counted them. That was it. Nobody was there.
Yeah, same thing.
And it's just nuts when something happens like that and the streets are clean. I couldn't believe that in New York the other day. I was talking to a guy there, and he said, not after 9/11, after the COVID. He goes, I'm telling you, Times Square, there was not a soul. He said, you could stand in the middle of the street in front of the Hilton where we're at. He said, you could look and you wouldn't even see a person. It's just hard to fathom that they shut down. So y'all end up, you're hunting up there. I want you to tell a story. This is one of my other favorites. You've got tons of stories. Me and Lewis hung out a lot. Me and him have been friends forever and have done a lot of stuff together. The story about your bear, the one that's tell that story. It's a great story.
That was a trip with Steve Skinner.
Okay.
And Larry Kelly, you might have met Larry Kelly
Paco.
through the deal. Yep. Yeah, that's right. He worked for you for a while.
And I nicknamed Paco.
Yeah. And so we went to Prince of Wales bear hunting, which it has great black bears. And we were hunting these little rubber raft with a 25-horse engine, and we were hunting the tide change, and we'd ride along in the ocean and hunting the shore because there was a 23-foot tide change every day, and the bears would come down and roll rocks over and eat crabs and stuff under them. So I got a Boone and Crockett black bear, and it was the last day, and we didn't want to skin it or mess with it, so we took it to this taxidermist type person that had a sign up that skinned bears. And while we were there, natives were coming from everywhere that lived in a trailer park community looking at it. And told her, skin it and freeze it, and I'll pick it up tomorrow. And we came and got it. It was froze. I put it in an ice chest, got it home. And about 2 weeks later, my taxidermist calls me, and he says, your bear doesn't have any feet. And so I go and look at it, and all 4 feet were gone. And he says, looks to me like somebody cut them off hurriedly because they were cut off at different lengths. One of them was like right at the ankle, and the other one was like at the elbow, and all four were cut off at different lengths, like they were whacked off really fast. Mm-hmm. I called the taxidermist, and she said, "Well, you told me to cut those feet off."
Why would you do that?
And that's what I said. Why would I tell you to cut the feet off a big bear like that? The claws on that black bear were as big as my fingers. They were huge. It was a huge bear. And I contacted the Game and Fish, and they went. She had altered the work order and put on there that I said, cut the feet off. I don't want them. And she said, but I'll send you some feet. And she sent me some feet that were about the size of the feet on your dog out here.
Why? What did she sell them? Was there a market for them?
I think some local person stole them.
Right.
Because they were all native and they're sort of superstitious, aphrodisiac. Reason somebody wanted them because they were really big claws.
Right.
Penis pecker upper.
Right. Yeah, like the rhino horn.
Yeah.
So what did I remember you called me, you were so pissed, and you said, I told her I'm going to report her to the Better Business Bureau. I thought, what was the name of that little town?
I don't remember.
I thought they got a fucking Better Business Bureau. Tell the story about you and Larry going to the wrong place, the wrong airplane, and the wrong. hangar.
That was on a trip to Equok, Alaska to go fishing, and they were supposed to meet us when the plane landed, and we land, and it's out in the middle of nowhere, which I now know was New Stuyahok, which is the next village over, and because I had to land there this last time I went, but wasn't there, and then the pilot was about to leave, and I said, Buck Williams is supposed to be here to meet us. They said, well, Buck Williams isn't here. He's over at Equok. And I said, well, that's, if you'll read our baggage, that's where it's supposed to be, is at Equok. And they looked at it and said, oh, yeah, it is. But what was really scary about it, when we were landing, we had about a 40-mile-an-hour crosswind. Mm. And that small plane, probably 10, 12 passenger plane with 4 of us on it, had to crab to land.
What's crab?
And like it had to turn into the wind, and so it was going sideways down the runway. And when he got close, he straightened it up real quick and hit the ground. And I don't know how it kept from blowing over, to be honest. But he had landed at the wrong airport, and so then we had to take off
in 40-mile-an-hour wind.
Now, when we got to Equok, we got to land into the wind, and it wasn't near as much fun.
Those bush pilots, like, they've got a sack on them. Like, some of the conditions that they fly in, I mean, they're amazing.
And it can be scary in those little planes at times.
I can imagine.
You would go every year to the trophy hunters, and you would spend 3 days at a hunting show with us. 3 days. I don't know how anybody can spend 3 days at a hunting show and not work at one. And you would just go, and you and Larry would go, and y'all would meet, and y'all would go buy a trip every year.
Yeah. We, back in the early days, the trophy hunters was really good because they had lots of outfitters. It was all outfitters, and it wasn't all jerky and glass cleaning and massaging and shoe shines and stuff like that. It was a hunting show and a little bit of hunting equipment, but not near the hunting equipment that's there now. But they had guides and outfitters from all over the United States.
We wrote all of our business in. I would write 75% of my business that weekend in Fort Worth.
And you had people coming by. You were signing people up, getting dates.
It was busy.
And I think it got to where a lot of your people would just plan on doing it that weekend.
Right in August.
But then I didn't go the last couple of years because there wasn't anything there.
We don't do any shows anymore anyways. Me and Michelle walked through Trophy Hunters the year before COVID, so it would have been 19 maybe.
Well, it might have been that long since I've been too. It goes fast when you get old.
We walked through there. We got a room at the Omni across the street, and I told her, I want to go over just because I'm nosy. I'm not going this year, but I want to know who's there. And we walked through that thing, and we were in 45 minutes. We walked out of the Omni, across the street, through the whole thing, and back to our room within an hour. It was terrible. was like, man. But back in the day, I was the first outfitter to have 2 booths. One booth was my setup booth. My other booth was where I could pull people in out of the traffic to talk to people. But you would spend your whole time there. You would come, you and Larry, y'all'd meet up, y'all'd leave y'all shit at our booth, and you'd go look, and y'all'd go away, and you'd come back, and y'all'd be talking about doing this or that, and you were going to book a trip.
It'd take you 30 minutes back in the day to walk to the pisser sometimes. Like there was that many. It was just a sea of people.
75,000 people through them
had
doors.
to wade through.
Good hunts that we went on there and didn't kill anything, but we've met some really nice people and went on them. We went to New Mexico, to the Gila, and hunted mule deer and velvet. Had one Larry shot at and missed, and he sold the muzzle loader we were using right then. I wished I could have bought it, but he said the thing's not hitting anywhere, and the guide took a Tupperware dish out there at about 50 yards and put it up and said, see if you can hit that. And he ruined that Tupperware dish right through the middle. But he'd already sold the gun to Hob.
Oh, he did?
Well, tell the story about y'all went somewhere, and I think it was in Alaska with a preacher, and they about starved y'all to death.
Oh,
Well, hold on. Go back to earlier, whenever it was 3 days. You only had, after 9/11, what did y'all eat for the 3 days that it took you to get the meat?
3 days later, they let the bush pilots in Alaska fly first.
Right.
And so he came back in and brought our meat.
Lewis
But
wasn't
in
no
the,
starve.
in the meantime, I was catching Dolly Varden trout and
gotcha.
frying them with the flour and butter that we
So
had.
you were okay then. You had protein. You weren't just making biscuits and gravy or anything
No,
like that.
no.
You
No,
were-
but his biscuits and gravy, if he made them out there, to be good. Lewis a hell of a cook.
No,
you ain't gonna starve.
No. I know that. But so that's what you just lived off the land for a little bit.
Yeah,
Catch fish and cook
right.
them.
That's all we had was fish.
Right.
I've eaten his cooking many times. He's good. I wasn't even worried about him starving.
No. But I didn't know if you were just like what you were doing for those 3 days. That you're waiting on the meat.
Dolly
You were
Varden
fine.
trout.
You were
they,
fine.
They were getting tired of fish, though.
I got trapped in Alaska one time, and I had to eat fucking duck and goose, and I don't like duck and goose, and I was hungry. I was right. So tell me about the story when you almost starved, though.
Oh, I guess this was our first salmon trip to Alaska, and
This is
Hobbs'
great.
wife worked at the Air Force base or at the military base, and a preacher she knew there was retiring, and he had homesteaded some land in Alaska, and he was going to make a living retired guiding hunters.
Guinea pigs is what y'all are.
So we booked a trip to go with him, and it was our first trip to Alaska too. I'd learned a long time ago when I take a trip, if you don't know the guide, you better take your own equipment because there's no telling what you're going to have to use. Right. And so we'd taken our own equipment, and we got there, and we spent the night in Anchorage and drove to Wasilla, where the
Sarah
Iditarod
Palin.
starts, and caught a float plane and flew to north of there toward the big mountain and landed in a lake and drove to river. I'm not sure, I don't even remember what river it was. It might have been the Mulchatna, but it was a river that looked like chocolate milk.
Really?
And we were on this stream that was running into it that was crystal clear. And we walked down there and started fishing, and right where the color changed, we were catching fish like there was no tomorrow. But we had taken our own equipment because this guy had Zebco 202s to fish with.
Andy doesn't even know what that
Not a
is.
good,
yet.
not a good reel.
No.
It's a push button.
Oh, like a
Little
little kid, like a little
economy
kid?
reel,
right,
like
a kid would use.
Snoopy.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And
So you were glad you.
but we caught salmon, and we'd taken our own lures too. Had taken Panther Martin spinner baits and MEPs and stuff like that. And at the end of the trip, well, when we got there, we'd driven all day, and we never had time to stop and eat because we had vehicle problems. And let's see, I guess Lloyd Holloway was with us, which was, and Hobb was with us. And the van wouldn't start, so Lloyd and I cleaned the battery cables and got the van started. And so we got there, but he was supposed to have stopped and gotten us a hamburger, and we never had time. We didn't know that at the time, but we get there, and it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we hadn't had anything to eat since breakfast, and we're starving, and asked if we could have a sandwich or something, and they jumped on their son that was doing all the trip with us, said, "You were supposed to get them a hamburger." And I said, "Well, we didn't have time. Fix them something." And so we got a slice of bread, or 2 slices of bread, but there was a single slice of American cheese, a leaf of lettuce, and a little bit of mayonnaise, and another slice of bread. And that was our sandwich.
Cheese and lettuce and mayonnaise.
And then for dinner, I think we had some rice, and I don't remember what kind of meat it was, but it wasn't much meat. But it wasn't anything for fat boys. We were hungry.
Right.
And so the next day, Larry's saying, I think something's wrong. I hadn't gone to the bathroom in 2 days now.
You can't eat nothing.
And I said, "Well, no, you're not constipated. You hadn't had enough to eat.
You got
need to go yet."
You got an empty stomach.
Did you take over camp meals after that?
Not in that camp. Well, I only cooked one in that camp, but then we went to the camp and was catching fish, and Larry told them Lewis is cooking. And so I was grilling fish on a campfire while we were out there 3 days catching salmon. And then when we come back, Larry said, "Lewis is going to cook y'all dinner." And so I cooked more salmon on the grill.
Lewis is a great cook. One of my favorite meals you ever made for me. Now, you've made a lot of things really good. You used to make ribs that were really good. You used to put raspberry chipotle on them, I think. Is that what it was?
I've done that.
Those are very good. And then we went to the house at ranch number 17 that you had before you flipped it. We went and stayed with you, and you cooked chicken one night on the grill with a sugar brine, I think.
Yeah, salt and sugar brine.
Oh,
And set it on a beer can and call it beer can chicken. Funny story on that. I fixed that for some friends one time, and the wife was from England, and she, even though she'd been here for 25 years, she still had a real strong English accent, and I called it beer butt chicken. And so the next morning, she was talking about it, and she says, "That up your butt chicken you fixed was really good."
that's a damn good meal. One of our other, we used to go fishing every year. We go to the Padre. Me and Tony and Dad and you or Luke or somebody. But Dad went 3 or 4 times. We went to Garcia's was the restaurant we used to go to.
Yeah, it was across the border.
Was it Matamoros or Reynosa?
Matamoros.
At Matamoros, we'd go over there and eat. And you could eat like a king for $25 a person or something.
Oh, yeah.
Chateaubriand. We ate somewhere in, me and Michelle went and I had Chateaubriand. I hadn't even seen it on a menu anywhere else. And you can't find it. Isn't it Chateaubriand? Ain't that the name of it?
Yeah. What we were having there, though, was pepper steak, where it was the Chateaubriand tenderloin cut in about 1/2-inch thick pieces, and they would bring it out and cook it in a skillet with Cavassier and flame it and cook it all right there in front of you.
Very, very good
And
meal.
you could cut it with a fork. It was amazing.
A couple years ago, we had a misorder from Cisco. I get pork chops from Cisco, and I get the jalapeno marinated pork chops, and they're very good. I like them. They're pretty spicy, but they're really good. And we get them. We do them on the grill all the time. Well, I open up the pork chops. We thaw them out and open them up. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's just beef, and it's in these. It's like in a sack, a tube sack, like you'd have to, like it's almost a tube, like a loin almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm pissed. I'm like, son of a bitch, they sent us the wrong thing. We're supposed to have pork chops tonight. Blah, 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 blah. But I had just needed one extra box of pork chops. So I just put one of these boxes. I had like 6 boxes of them. So I'm going through to find some freaking pork chops. We find another box of pork chops, and I thaw them out real quick so we can cook them. And these are already thawed out. I'm like, shit, I'm going to cook them and see what they're like. So I said, I don't even know what these are. There's no name on them, and it's not like anything I had before. We cooked them on the grill. The best meat I've ever had in my entire life. And I think it was Chateaubriand is what it was.
Tenderloin.
But so I ordered from, so I called my Cisco guy, and we had 6 of those. At first I'm chewing his ass out. So they give me credit for those pork chops. I go, what do you want me to do with this meat here? What did they call that meat, Andy? that stuff that meat we got by accident from Cisco. What was the name of it? Do you remember?
It was the cap of the ribeye.
Yeah, but they had a name for it, and I can't remember what it is. But I think what it was Chateaubriand is what it was. But anyways, fuck, we'd cook that for us in the back. That shit was good. I mean, like I said, you could cut it with a knife, but a fork, or a spoon, whatever. It was that good. But the first one was on the grill, and I thought I'm gonna try some. So I took some off the grill, and I thought, oh, we had a home run on these things. It's like eating filet mignon. But the Cisco guy, they couldn't figure out what happened or how it was marked under pork chop boxes. But I got like 6 boxes. So then I tried to order some. Fuck, those bitches were about $100 a box.
Yeah.
They were really expensive, and I can't remember, but it was the cap off the ribeye.
Yeah. It was just that where that, you look at a ribeye and you've got that the leaner meat that's down here, and then you've got that outside cap, and it was just that. I can't remember what they call that either.
They had a name of it, but you could roll it up, and that's what they would do at fancy restaurants. They would roll it up and cook it. But it was very, very good. But anyways, we went there, and that's the place Dad decided to have bananas Foster for the first time.
The Artagon?
That don't sound right.
That's what it says. That word right there. But it was basically just this thing right here.
They probably just called it a rib cap.
Yeah, that might have been it.
I bet that's what they called it. I don't know that I've ever seen that cut of meat by
Well,
itself.
see how but it's funny.
I know what it is. It's the best part of a ribeye.
Jesus Christ, this sucker was good.
Yeah.
Well, look at the top one right there shows 4 steaks are $150 right there, ribeye cap steaks.
Yeah.
But that's what it looked like.
That's how it came right there. It was just a flat piece of meat. Because, whenever you cut it, it's just, unroll it.
See,
you do that, and it was delicious, though.
But I would. So then I wanted to buy some, and he's like, "Oh," he said, "That's a special order for a restaurant in Chicago gets that." And I couldn't even hardly get it. But if I did, it was very expensive. But boy, it was good. But it reminded me of the Chateaubriand we had in Mexico. Yeah. But that's when we went there that time, and Dad was there, and Dad was bitching about dessert time, and he didn't want bananas Foster, and I was like, "Just order it, you'll like it." Damn it! And he ordered it, and they burn it. They blow it up and they on the
you
flames
want some
and
of this,
shit.
Lewis?
No, thank you.
No.
And anyways, Dad, after he did it the second night we went there and ate, Dad kicks his pen and paper out, and I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm gonna make this shit at home." I was like, "You can burn your house down." But we used to go to Garcia's and eat every night. Oh, it was so good.
It was good, and we went there on another trip, and we took Steve's son Blake, and Steve and I had been going for 20 years and knew everybody there. They knew us. They knew we were going to tip.
You were there 3 or 4 times a year, though.
Yeah. And when they saw us come in,
it was in Matamoros, right? We'd walk across the Brownsville Bridge.
We walked across. It, take you 10 minutes or less.
You wouldn't go there nowadays.
No, I'd be afraid to walk across today. But they knew us, and when we walked in the door, they started bringing us stuff.
Oh, we treat us like kings.
Now,
and we're there, and they'd been bringing stuff that we hadn't ordered, and Blake's still in high school, and he leans over to Steve and says, "They're treating y'all like you're the mafia."
This is the place right here, I guess.
Yes.
Yep, that's
see
the same.
See inside. If they have pepper steak.
Pepper steak. The inside is nothing. Well, I guess it's kind of. Is that a buffet?
It's one of the nicest places. It's salad bar, I think.
Oh, salad bar.
It's one of the nicest places in there, and they have lots of weddings and wedding venues, wedding parties.
He's probably making bananas Foster right there.
Well, either that or the pepper steak.
Oh, they do the pepper steak right at your table.
It was awesome. I mean, I'm telling you right now, you could eat. What's good is 6 people could go in there and eat, and you'd get out there for $150.
Yeah. And that included Cavassier and flan at the end.
Yes.
What's Cavassier?
Go back to the flaming steaks.
That's professional drinkers drink.
What is it?
Cavassier.
French brandy.
Yeah.
Oh. It's good.
I've never heard of that.
And I learned to warm it up there. You take your brandy and in the snifter and put it in a microwave for about 25 seconds.
Yeah.
And with the fumes coming off, you can't even take a sip of it because it just
knocks you over.
It knocks you over, and it is really good.
I bet you $20 right now. $20 right now. Andy's ass. is going to buy him some Cavassier because I know him too well, and you're going to do it in the microwave, aren't you?
Yeah.
See, I knew it. I knew when you said that.
You'll love it, and it's great with something like a piece of flan or even a cherry pie or apple pie.
Yeah.
To accompany dessert after a good meal.
And they heat it up down there?
Yeah, and that's where I learned to heat it.
Anything's better than flan, though.
Yeah, I'm not a flan.
Flan has no taste.
So they're doing steak right there.
Yeah.
No, that's cherries Jubilee. It looks like there's cherries in that.
Yeah, you might be right. There might be some cherries,
That's
but the
cherries
steak
Jubilee.
looks the same. See what the next picture was.
I think it's the same Mexican fella.
We
Well, they
there's this pepper steak
That was
right
the
there.
Pepper steak, but they do it right at your table.
that's it. That's
Yes.
it right there.
So what do
where
they
it's
do?
done.
They bring it
They
out
do it
and,
right at the table.
and then is it like cook it in liquor like
Mostly butter because the liquor cooks off
Right.
with the flame, and you've just got some flavor from it.
It's a very, very, very good restaurant. But it reminds me of probably what it was like when you ate at a really fancy place in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
It's just it's a carryover from them same days. They've probably been open for 60 years and cook things and do things just like they did back in the old days. The food was very, very, very good. You know what we had in New York? I never thought about this before, but Michelle, we went to Serendipity, this ice cream. We ate dinner there, and they had ice cream sundaes and stuff. And Michelle said, "Let's share one." And I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to eat but 2 or 3 spoons anyways. That's fine. And it was called a nut sundae. It had different assortments of different nuts and stuff in it. Well, I wasn't paying attention to it. So I took the first bite, and I thought, man, that's really good. What is it? They took, not only did they have almonds and walnuts in it, they had a slice of pecan pie with hot fudge sundae on top of it. And I'm telling you right now, it's freaking good. I'd never even thought about that before.
I'm going to pull a Ron. Spell Cavassier.
Good luck.
Can you? Or
CORV.
is it in the brandy? Is it in the brandy
Cavassier.
section?
It's a French brandy.
COU.
It's COVIOUSR or something.
I'll find I'll just go to the brandy and look for the word that I can't pronounce.
Look up
and that'll
specs
be it.
right now, and you can look it up.
I had something in Costa Rica or the boys did. It was a snow cone, and they put. It sounds terrible, but they put powdered milk on it.
No, that's supposed to be really. I have had that before. That is good.
Yeah, it was really good. And they put some other stuff.
They
to
have
it,
a name
maybe
of it.
Cuppa.
Did they
What it
put
was?
tahini and stuff on it too?
No. It was just shaved ice, powdered milk. Might even been like evaporated milk and some other things, but it was super super sweet.
They do that in Hawaii, I
The
think.
boys liked it.
I think that's Hawaiian ice. I think is what it is.
Well,
I don't know.
we do the same. They put the sweet evaporated milk on it and just bananas or whatever, banana snow cone with the evaporated milk in it, and it is really good.
Yeah.
That whole vibe is going everywhere. I bet at Battery Park, I saw 10 different stands that had the fruit that's got the tahini and stuff on it. You used to never see that stuff. They got chilies on mangoes and stuff. And you see it everywhere now. That whole food scene is really exploding like crazy. But I think that evaporated milk deal's Hawaiian also.
It might be. I don't know.
But I had it somewhere and it was really good.
All the snow cone stands at home have it.
You got a lot of Mexicans. That's what it
This
is.
is
It's Mexican. It's a
not-
it's a
I
South.
think it's Costa Rica.
Not in Colleyville.
They who's mowing the yards? But that whole deal, that vibe is taken off everywhere you go now. But I can tell you one thing. Me and Andy will test to this. The farther north you get, the less spices you have in your food.
Well, and if you go far enough south, Costa Rica, there was nothing.
That surprised me too.
Nothing. Fruit, meat, and
Black beans.
white rice and black beans.
I'm not a big white rice, black bean guy.
I'm not either.
Well, okay, Lewis, you've been hunting all over the United States, or North America, I should say. What's your favorite hunt you've ever had?
Well, it's hard to say, but we really enjoyed all the years out at Big Bend, camping and doing
The
our own
camaraderie.
thing. Yeah,
In the fellowship.
we had a group of about 5-6 people, and 1 or 2 of them would vary. But Larry, Hobb, and I went most all those years, and it was just a great time, and see lots of animals, shoot lots of blue quail. Cooking on the campfire. Another Noah story about cooking on the campfire. When we met Noah, the way he cooked is he wrapped everything in about 6 layers of foil and just threw it in the fire.
No seasoning?
Yeah, he seasoned it and everything, but just meat, and he'd throw
Just
it in
campfire
there.
cooking.
And we had fires you could melt horseshoes on. and then he had this oven mitt, or he'd try to get it out. And that's how I really befriended him. He pulls it out, and the thumb on that thing's on fire, and he's shaking it. And I grab his arm and pour beer on it and put the fire out. But anyway, he started eating steaks that I'd cook him there too. But one time I was cooking beans, and I'd take a can of ranch-style beans or Trappy's jalapenos, what we liked back then, and open the lid about 3/4 of the way and bend it back and use it as a handle and set it in the edge of the fire. First time I did that, Larry says, "What'd you open that can of beans for? You're going to get ashes in it." Noah jumps up and says, "You better open that lid. If you don't, you'll blow this camp smooth to hell." Now, tell me how he knew that.
Right. Is this? I've definitely been.
That's
pronouncing
it.
Right.
That's
Is
it.
that
Yeah,
how you
that's
spell
the second one.
That's how you spell it.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, so is the other one. Buy a car. You can buy one for $2.39, Andy. I'm betting Andy's buying the $34.99 right there.
That's what we get, and it's good.
I'll get the $54 one.
Let me tell you about.
What's the difference in brandy and cognac? Because I think this is technically.
I think cognac is French.
Okay.
But it's the same thing, isn't it?
Pretty
same.
much. Pretty
You know,
much.
I had a kid work for me. Chris Swanee used to drink
Christian Brothers.
Christian Brothers brandy and brandy cokes.
Yeah.
I never even heard of that. It's a northern deal. But I went up north and we were up there and in a restaurant. They sold brandy cokes.
I put brandy in my. I bought Christian Brothers because I put brandy in my sangria. Put triple sec brandy. I think I might put a little bit of vodka. It's boozy sangria, which probably makes it not sangria. but that brandy sweetens it up a little bit.
We had Christian Brothers Cavassier with after dinner night before last at sunset. And we warmed it up, and it was very good.
I'll tell you this much about Lewis. Lewis used to always want to make me an after dinner drink, and he never could really catch on that. I'm just not that big into the whiskey and stuff. But I've noticed Lewis, when Lewis was rolling and going and still working and stuff, he drank higher dollar whiskey than he does now.
Well, it was tax deductible.
So it's all about taxes.
And then they changed the law, and I backed off just a little bit because you couldn't deduct it all.
What's your favorite whiskey? If you could, price not being a factor, what whiskey would you go to if it was going to be your last bottle on earth?
Well, I've always enjoyed Crown Royal, which is pretty simple by most comparisons. But I hadn't had that much more expensive stuff. Now, we had old fashions in Louisiana the other day made out of Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
It was almost straight liquor that were really, really good.
Yeah. Buffalo Trace is really good. Everything that they make, and they're on like a kit. Everybody is buying Buffalo Trace. Blanton's is really popular.
That's a Blanton is a Buffalo Trace one too?
Yeah.
Now,
Eagle Rare is.
Eagle Rare
All the
is,
Pappies.
Weller,
Yeah.
Pappies.
see, I buy Old Number 8, which is made by the same company that makes Buffalo Trace, and I put it in my barrels and age it.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Do you have barrels?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, whiskey barrels.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
And they hold about 3.5 half gallons.
And you just
And
put-
age it for 6 or 8 weeks,
Yeah.
and it's hard to tell from Buffalo Trace.
He
So-
makes me a glass one time. He goes, "Well, what do you think?" You know, the same guy that drank the Pappy and couldn't tell the difference anyways.
Well, we
I
had
don't.
COVID.
Well, but it would have made no. I can't tell the difference. Kentucky Deluxe or freaking Garrison Brothers taste the same to me.
I
I'm
really
not a
like whiskey
drinker.
now. It's got to be on ice though. I got to have it on the rocks. I don't
belong-
like it's too hot.
I
Otherwise.
belonged to a Crown Royal club many years ago,
Yeah.
and at that time they might have had 20 different levels,
Right.
and their recommendation was 1 or 2 cubes of ice when you served it.
Yeah, I like it just because if you drink it just neat, it burns. It's hot, and I don't
It
like
cuts the bite out, just
Yeah.
a little bit of ice.
it. Yeah.
Did you drink any of that cherry stuff I got from Portugal?
Yeah, I did.
Did you like it?
I did.
That's a drink
Can't
they
have
have.
much.
That stuff's stout,
Yeah.
and they have a drink. It's a cherry. I'm gonna tell
Cherry,
Michelle
it's a
to
cherry
bring it.
liqueur. of
Yeah.
some sort.
Would you take a drink if Michelle brung some at lunch?
Yeah.
They have it's a drink that they serve over at I think it's in Portugal, and they serve it in every night at dinner. You have a glass before.
But I really, and I don't know what it is. For a long time, I couldn't drink whiskey. It's got to be an age thing, I would assume, right?
Well, that's like I learned to drink scotch when I was in college.
See, I can't do scotch.
Well, the reason I learned to drink scotch in college, if you had some sort of bourbon, you go to a party, you look over there and your bottle's gone because everybody poured it in Coke. You can take a bottle of scotch and set it out there. Nobody's going to touch it.
Nobody will touch it. That's how my father-in-law got on Old Milwaukee's Best. He would take good beer to a college party, and it was all gone. So he started drinking the cheap shit. Nobody would touch it, but he got a liking to it. So he bought Old Milwaukee's Best Light for the longest time.
Well, scotch is an acquired taste, but I acquired the taste.
I haven't acquired it.
And our old friend Scott Tarwater really enjoyed scotch too, and I can't tell you how many good scotches we've had together.
Yeah, and it's just scotch. You don't put any soda or club soda or anything in it.
Sometimes we put ice in it.
Yeah, that's about it. Johnny Walker Blue, I'm assuming. Is that what the favorite is?
I'm pretty broad range on it, and probably don't spend enough for Johnny Walker Blue.
Really? Jeff claims that the professional drinkers do scotch because it doesn't give you a hangover for some reason. But I'm assuming if you drink enough of it, you can
get a hangover from anything.
Some of the nastiest hangovers I've had, when you start mixing stuff, that's a recipe for disaster. Whether is it liquor than beer, you're in the clear. Beer before liquor, never been sicker.
Whiskey on beer, never fear.
Whiskey on beer, never fear.
Beer on whiskey, mighty risky.
Some of those hangovers in college, whew,
Well,
I don't know how I survived them.
That's a training ground.
I guess so. But I'm sure, in the insurance business, whenever you're hobnobbing with people, like they like their liquor after dinner, right? Like you're taking clients out to dinner and stuff.
And we never went to dinner that
Lunch?
often. I'd normally do lunches, and I rarely ever drank at lunch
Yeah.
because when I started drinking, the day was over.
It's interesting now because bourbon has gotten so popular. When I was in school, like nobody really drank bourbon, but now you look on social media and bourbons are popping up everywhere. It's kind of like the flavor of the month right now for whatever reason.
Well, I think a lot of it is all the local distilleries and stuff that's made it popular.
Yeah. How do you age? Like, where'd you get your whiskey barrels from?
Off the internet, you can order them, and
Do you have to season them, or do they come?
they come already charred,
Yeah.
and you rinse them out and put it in.
So what do you do when the whiskey barrel's empty? Is there a rinsing process that you have to clean it?
I never do. I put the same thing.
Fuckers
in
ain't never
again.
been empty.
Well, if you leave it empty, it will shrink and leak.
Oh.
And so when you bottle it, you fill it back up, and I fill it back up with the same thing, so I don't ever do anything to it.
And it changes the profile flavor after 6 or 8 weeks?
I'd say 3 to 8 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the longest that you've aged whiskey?
I've done some of it a year and a half or so, and you're losing some due to evaporation.
Right. Devil's cut.
No, that's the
Angel's
share.
Angel's share. That's right. Yeah.
But I have also had some housekeepers that would get some of that angel share too, or some friends that would get some of that angel share. So you got to keep an eye on that angel share.
Yeah. How much are we really giving to the angels, right? I'll have to try that. How much were the whiskey barrels?
They're not expensive, $35, $40.
Oh, that's not
but
bad at all.
You can get a barrel, and you can have your Stanfield outfitting.
Yeah.
logo put on the end of the barrel. They're pretty neat. They'd be a
Right.
neat show.
Yeah.
You'd have to watch the angels share around here.
So that barrel that's in there, how many gallons? Like what's a standard whiskey barrel? Is that you probably can't see?
Probably 25 to 40 to 50 gallons.
And then you'll
I'm talking about a barrel that's
smaller barrel then.
10, 11 inches in diameter and 12, 14 inches long.
Yeah, it wasn't the 55
It's not
gallons.
the 55 gallon one.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
But I wouldn't have been shocked if he did, though. But no, he's
That's a lot of whiskey that you're putting in there.
he's
It's doable.
It's doable. Yeah. Exactly.
he's counterfeiting though. He's taking $40 bottle and he's turning it into an $80 bottle.
At John Ayers,
Did you get it on Amazon?
Are you gonna buy one of these
I
too?
didn't have Amazon then, but
Oh.
pull it up and I'll tell you which one. But at John Ayers, he had a bottle of Buffalo Trace that was empty, and I poured this in it, and I took a black marker and real neatly wrote Faux, F-A-U-X, on it, and people drank it like Buffalo Trace.
Yeah,
and
there it
never
is
knew
right
any
there.
Difference.
$50.
Yeah.
Just pour it in
See
there
what-
and
see what size they are.
they look
1 liter.
1 liter.
No,
Bigger? Bigger or smaller?
yeah, mine's probably 2.5, 3 liters.
This one's 5 liters right there. $84.
Lewis, that's probably what size yours were.
5
Well,
liters.
it's gone up.
This one's 2.
you know.
Yeah, I mean everything's gonna go. 2 liters is $70. I think it also
see-
kind of depends on where you get it from.
See, that's not but about 2 liters isn't even a gallon.
Don't get me lying.
2.8 liters, I think, in a
You're
gallon.
talking to the wrong.
Yeah, I'm not a metric guy.
Wichita
And
Falls guy here.
Mine holds
I'll-
3.5 half gallons.
3.5
gallon
half
and a
gallons.
Yeah.
So it's almost a gallon and 3/4. So it's less than 2 gallons.
So maybe that 5 liters about it.
would do the one. You can age hot sauce. I've never heard of this.
Yeah. Tabasco is made just like wine on Avery Island in Louisiana.
Really?
And, if you mess up when you're making wine, it turns to vinegar. So they get the vinegar that's in Tabasco by aging it, and it's aged in barrels.
That's a neat place to go to.
I've never been, but
It's
I've
Avery
read
Island's
about
a really
it. and-
cool place.
And
Right.
the employees live on the island. And
We did a cacao tour, cacao and coffee. It is amazing to me.
What is cacao?
It's the cocoa pod. Anyway, it is amazing to me. So the way that they figured out how to that the fruit was edible is they were watching monkeys. So when you open the pod, when you open the fruit, it's got like a string of just like pearls, and it's slimy. And on the inside of that is what they make chocolate out of. So they'll scoop it out, they'll let it ferment for 5 days, then they'll rinse it off, and then they'll put it out in the sun to dry. And then you start to get that slime stuff kind of starts to slough off. Then you take the fruit or the nut, basically, roast it twice, and then you grind it up twice, and then that's how you start getting.
How the fuck they get this from a monkey?
They knew that it was edible.
Okay, that part they get. Okay,
They knew that it was edible. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's crazy how they went from, okay, we can eat the outside of this, we can eat the outside of it, but if we get that little thing that's inside of it and then do all this shit to it, we can get chocolate out of it.
So you went to a place in St. Louis or in Costa Rica? Where
Yeah.
was this at?
Don Oliva?
In Costa Rica, though, they did that. So what do they look like? They just a tree?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. The only reason I want to go to Hawaii is to go to Pineapple Farm. That's it. I don't give a shit about. I would like to go see Pearl Harbor. I would like to see the USS Arizona and that stuff. But I don't give 2 shits about anything else in Hawaii. But going to see a pineapple plantation would be neat. And it's cacao, right?
So that's what it looks like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen them before. I've just didn't.
So that actually, the white stuff, that's the slimy part, and it tastes like Starburst. I'm not kidding you. Yeah, it tastes like Starburst. It's kind of got this fruity flavor. And then these are what is inside of, if you eat that down far enough, you get to those. But what they do is they just scoop all that out, throw that shit in a bucket, let it ferment for 5 days.
With the seeds, the pods. Too?
Yeah, because that's the seeds are inside of that. They're inside of every one of those white things right there.
What, do people eat the stuff, or do you just taste some? I mean, is that something
You can still eat it, I guess. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
What
I don't
made you
know.
to eat it? Those ones
We were at that. They make.
Oh, they tell you to taste it.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you now.
Yeah, you get to taste it. You get to taste like every part of the. Well, I mean, obviously you don't taste it when they roast it.
So when after they roast them twice, do they crush them?
Yep. They'll go through a grinder, and then.
Is that where they get cocoa powder?
No, because once you do it twice, like it kind of the oils and stuff inside of it. So like you'll get it. It looks
Cocoa nibs.
It looks kind of like that, and then when you grind it enough, it kind of creates a paste, and then it tastes like it's just pure.
So were the cocoa nibs any good?
No,
they weren't. No, did they add something to them to make them sweet?
No.
No, there's unsweet chocolate and there's sweetened chocolate.
I don't know how they do all that, but
it's interesting. I know that was one of the big things with Hershey. Is he figured out how to do something no one else had done, and I think
he figured out how to make it He figured out how to make chocolate bars.
Milk chocolate.
Yeah,
he figured out how to add milk to make milk chocolate, and that was his big thing that set him aside. But candy wise, you take Reese's peanut butter cups, the greatest candy invention I think ever. But you can go to those homemade chocolate deals and stuff, and they can have chocolate pralines, they can have chocolate turtles or whatever it is, caramel, blah blah blah. There is nobody that makes a damn Reese's cup that tastes like a Reese's cup other than Reese's.
No.
Right.
You know those fancy chocolate deals and stuff. Their peanut butter or something just doesn't match. Reese's got that shit down. Do you remember when me and you went to the Hershey's?
Yeah.
Me and Lewis went with me to Harrisburg to the big hunting show, and we made a deal with Johnny. Johnny would go the afternoons because he'd go party all night long, and me and Lewis would leave at 3 or 4, and we went to Gettysburg, and we went to the Hershey. And we looked around, and that was interesting.
Went to 3 Mile Island.
Yes, we did. Sure did. You know, every time I fly back home.
So this is what it looks like right after when they grind it twice. Is this picture right here on the spoon? But that's how it starts, and then like these are the different. So that picture, I bet I can't blow it up, but that's like the different. So
levels.
That's after the slime comes off of it. That's probably after it's been roasted, and then that's
the nibs, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and then like you just grind it up enough, and then you get that. So the oils kind of create this.
Did you go to a coffee place there too?
They had coffee there, yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was okay.
Because I love Mexican coffee.
And then that was what was on the table. So I don't know how they got that to kind of set up a little bit. I don't know if it does it naturally or what, but that was on all the tables.
Was there banana trees everywhere? Or was it like Puerto Rico?
I didn't see any. It was mainly coconut trees, which you got to be careful under those because coconuts will kill more people than sharks every year.
I'm sure that's true.
So no, I'm serious. Like you got to be careful. But he was talking. So like monkeys spend most of their time drunk because they eat fermented fruit so much. Like seriously, they're drunk. You run across drunk monkeys all the time. But yeah, so that was the place that we went to. But that's how they do chocolate in a nutshell. So I didn't mean what were you talking about? I interrupted you.
The 3 Mile Island. Every time we fly home from New Hampshire, if we land at Manchester, usually it goes Manchester to Baltimore to DFW. Mm-hmm. We fly over 3 Mile every single time. And I'll never forget me and you driving down the road and like, God damn, that's 3 Mile Island. And kids today, like Andy, they don't even know what 3 Mile Island's about.
It was a nuclear reactor, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was they thought
we almost had a Chernobyl in America, didn't we?
About.
Yeah.
What was going on? It was getting hot
or something. One of the
it was a leak of
how do
some
they say
kind.
it? Centrifugal or
centrifuge.
Whatever the word I can't say. Got real hot or something. It wasn't cooling down, and they finally got it reversed. But yeah, they were fixing to have to freaking.
There's a movie coming out that I really want to see, Oppenheimer.
What's it about? Is that the Chernobyl?
Oppenheimer.
What's Oppenheimer?
Jeff Stanfield.
I guess it's something I should know.
Yeah.
What is it?
He invented the nuclear bomb.
I thought that they did that out in New Mexico with the German guys.
Oppenheimer.
And so he was the Oppenheimer. I thought, what's the guy's name from? Oh shit, the real smart guy from over there.
Oppenheimer.
Einstein. I thought Einstein is one of them.
He might have worked on it a little bit.
So Oppenheimer's the guy that came up with the code
bomb.
to make it.
Came up with the nuclear bomb.
Whatever it is.
Split the atom.
Split the atom.
Yeah.
And we stole him from the Germans, right?
I think they were trying to get him. Yeah,
We kidnapped him. He was a
but
Jewish guy, right?
He kind of knew what he'd done, and he was afraid of this getting out.
Can you imagine if Hitler would have got that sumbitch? There wouldn't be a flat piece of land in Europe right now that wasn't German.
You don't think so?
Shit, no. What do you think? I bet they would have dropped that sumbitch on London, and the first day they had it.
Yep.
Father of the atomic bomb. I'm trying to see if he went to Harvard. Trying to see how they got him.
Oh, so he was an American then, or he was educated over here, because a lot of the people that was, what was that thing called, that project that was when they done that in
born to a Jewish family.
Is it
in New
Los
York.
Alamos? What was the place out here in New Mexico? Las Cruces, wherever they did all the testing for the hydrogen bomb. There was a project, Manhattan Project or whatever. It might have been the Manhattan Project. Most of those guys that done it were German scientists that we had, and I think they were Jewish, most of them.
I don't remember.
But we pulled them from, and I don't know how we got them here. But Payne, listen to this. When Payne was in whatever the hell they call it, one of his schools he went to, a guy in his class was a Russian. This was in the same deal Payne was, and his father invented stealth technology.
Really?
The Russians thought it was too much money to pay for it, and they didn't want jack with it. So he defects to America and brings it over here, and that's where we got most of our stealth technology. But the Russians had it on their shelf, but they didn't want to fuck with it because they didn't have the money to do the work. If I remember correctly.
Oppenheimer was part of the Manhattan Project in Los Alamos. On October 9th, 1941, 2 months before the United States entered World War II, FDR approved a crash program to develop an atomic bomb. In May 1942, National Defense Research Committee, who had been to one of Oppenheimer's lecture at Harvard, invited Oppenheimer to work on fast neutron calculations.
And they split, and he'd come up with splitting the atom.
Yeah, he figured it out.
Remember but
he wasn't, I don't think he was happy about it.
The super collider.
Yeah.
We spent all that money, and I guess they just...
the ground would shift so much, and the fire ants were so bad, they had to give it up.
That's what the problem was.
Yeah.
Now, one of the resources that was gained from the super collider, and I'm probably going to be wrong on here, but I don't think I am, is the MRI machine. One of the engineers that was working on the super collider deal was working on on the MRI machine, and he was doing magnets, and he was figuring out how to do it. And he had a TV there that was on, and every time these magnets would go by the TV, it would light up and it would show different things. He went down to the vet in Waco, Texas or somewhere, and got a dog they'd put to sleep and started figuring out how to make it work. And he come up with the MRI. Then he was going to work one day and got hit by a fucking a dump truck, and he killed him, basically. His family sold the MRI patent to General Electric for $500,000 or some shit. How much money have they made off of that fucker?
Yep.
If that's a true story, I've been told that for years, but I think that's one of the greatest inventions of all time is the MRI. Andy says it's a fucking iPhone. I think the iPhone's the worst thing ever happened to civilization.
Well, in the right hands. How about that? But he said, now I become death, the destroyer of worlds. He said, we knew the world would never be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were just silent whenever they figured out, or whenever, I guess they were able to do like demonstrations. But I mean, you think about it, you come up with the atomic bomb, it's kind of like coming up with a cell phone.
What, yeah, but each invention of a weapon has been that way. When they first come up with gunpowder and guns, it changed everything.
Right.
And then they come up with artillery, and then they come up with a semi-automatic, and then they come up with an automatic, and then they come up with airplanes that you could shoot out of, and then bombs and all this other shit. Now we're down to laser stuff that's working. And so the atomic bomb, yes, it's a big threat, but it's been used once.
Twice.
But in one event in 2 or 3 days. But that was it. I mean, we have not had a...
But would you feel responsible if you were Oppenheimer and you saw what it did to Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
No, because he was just one of the first. Somebody else was going to come up with it.
You don't think that he sat there and thought that all those people died because of my invention.
Yeah, but how many more people would have died if he wouldn't have done that? We'd still be fighting over there, maybe.
I don't know. I could see where it would screw with your head a little bit.
So, Lewis,
All right.
what's your plans now? What you're outliving all your friends.
That's sad.
It is, but I mean that's the honest. Remember, we talked about this about 20 years ago. Remember this, our conversation?
Yeah, I believe it started with you told me I didn't have many good years of hunting left.
I told you
20 years ago he said that?
I told Lewis, I said, listen, I said, I'm going to hate to be the one to bust your bubble.
When I turned 50, it's probably
that was
closer to
it?
25 years ago. I said, you don't have many good years left.
I said, you better make all of them count. I said, here's the reality, Lewis. You're 50 years old now. And I said, let's say you live to be 80. I said, you only got 30 opening days of dove season left. He goes, well, that's depressing. I said, well, it's just the way it was.
Well,
It was during dove season, too. I think I told you that. I said, you got 30 more left.
how have I done, Jeff?
You're still living your life. But everybody else that hunts with you, there's not very many of them left anymore. And that's what sucks. Getting old sucks. It does.
Know, the biggest compliment I think many of my friends have paid me is when they die and come back, they want to come back as me.
There you go.
Lewis Henderson.
There you go. Because you've done what you've wanted to do, basically. You've worked for yourself. And there's days you went to work, but you enjoyed your work and you enjoy people. And you've had a good life. I mean, you married a doctor's daughter. Smart move. But you've done a lot of things. It's fun. You've been all over and you've done what you wanted. What have you not done that you wish you'd done?
Nothing really.
Africa?
There's no trip.
Well, and I'd like to shoot a grizzly bear, but I'll never do it because I'm too much of a tightwad to spend the money on it.
Yeah, I will say that because you can afford to do one, but you don't want to, and I understand that. But you've shot just about everything else you've wanted to.
Pretty much.
And you've gone just about every place that you've wanted to hunt.
Yep.
I think I don't have a lot of heroes in my life, but if I started all over again, I turned out and somebody said, you're going to be like Lewis Henderson, I'd say it's pretty good.
So
Because
what
there's
is
not a
it that
lot.
gets you to hold on to the money? Like you said, you're a tightwad. How old are you?
74.
74. I mean, you've got the money,
When I grew up, I did not have any money.
right?
I saved my money.
Mm-hmm.
And, lots of people say, well, I can do like you did and get rich buying and selling land. The only land that I ever bought, I knew I could pay for with the job I had if something happened.
Mm-hmm.
And if you buy it and have the pressure of having to do it, it changes everything.
Right.
And I've been lucky, I guess. I've got the ability to look and see what can be done to a piece of property to improve it. It's just like here. We built this big lake. We built these 3 ponds, and it changed the ecology right here.
Big time. And you've done that at every place you've been. Let's talk about your first piece of property you bought. This is a funny story. How many years did you own your place in De Leon before your wife found out you owned it?
No, she knew when I bought it, but I bought it with a friend, Carol Key. We bought it as a partnership. And my wife wasn't particularly happy about it. And so she tells her dad that she wants him to talk to me about it. And so he talks to me, and I tell him all about it. And you know what he said?
Good job.
No, he said, you need to be sure you got a buy-sell agreement in case something happens to one of you. And that was all he ever said.
What does that mean? A buy-sell agreement if something happens? Like,
So that there wouldn't be a big fight over what was going to happen to the property.
just have it all laid out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you ended up buying that person out, didn't you?
Yeah. After 2 or 3 years, he wanted to do something else, and I bought him out and paid $60,000 for it. And about 15 years later, I'm wanting something bigger. And had I bought this yet? It
Pretty
was
close.
About the same time, I wanted something bigger, and I put it on the market. I asked the real estate agent how much. He says, I can't tell you how
Right.
much to ask for it. I said, okay, let's put it on for $300,000. This was 87 acres that I'd paid $60,000 for. And tell my daughter what I've done. She gets upset, says, I don't want to sell it. I said, I tell you what, I won't go down then. And I sold it for $320,000. $25,000 because I sold the equipment and furniture and some other stuff at the same time. And I told my daughter, I'll buy another place that'll be really neat. And somewhere in the interim there, I bought this, but I bought this as an investment because it was a strange point in time where I could buy a piece of property, and that piece of property would pretty much make the payments for what I owed on the land. And so when I first bought it, we was raising watermelons with the Johnson family.
Yep.
Which they're the people that he was the farmer when they invented the seedless watermelon, basically.
He was part of the company. The scientist, I need to get Dwayne on here. That'd be a good podcast too. The guy who invented the seedless watermelon went to 4 or 5 different farmers and went in partnership with them if they would grow it. I don't know all the details exactly, but it's something like that.
But he was like
my
farmer.
ancestor said no. That'd be my luck.
Yeah.
And
he was one of the originals.
So he farmed watermelons and farmed wheat for me
So you
until
were
he
getting,
died.
So you got your payment through farming for the property.
Plus,
hunting.
I charged Jeff for hunting.
Right, the hunting.
Jeff leased the property.
Right.
And in return for Jeff, I built this is a 9-acre pond, knee deep for duck hunting. Now, I'm sure you've walked in it. It's still amazing.
Yeah.
And
There's a bunch of ducks on it now. I went down there this morning and looked
With
around.
old billboards.
billboard signs.
Billboard signs.
Yeah. And then put a foot of dirt on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess first we built the 2 smaller ponds, and
then
then
the
I
big
built
one.
the pond at the house, and the big one, that was all at the same time, I think.
All one summer.
And
then you've sold this place. You bought some more places here and sold those.
I bought, somewhere right after I got this, I bought the Hamilton place to roll the DeLeon place in. And when I went through it, it had a mile of Fornash Creek on it. And it was rough, rocky property, and it was a limestone bottom there. But I could see that if you go in there and clear some of this brush out and you move this gravel and get to this limestone, it'll hold water. And so I moved all of that, took a lot of that gravel and paved all the roads on that piece of property. And when it rained, I had water holes 10 foot deep, and it held water. And changed the ecology on that, and high fenced it, and had 9 different kinds of animals on it.
Flipped it for big money, didn't you? You made a big profit on that one, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I flipped this, and then I flipped that, and bought a piece of property at St. Joe. Well, while I had this property, I bought a couple of properties in Haskell County. I bought a piece of property from Jim Kern on the lake. I think that was about 100 acres. And then I actually bought some property from Jeff and Tony because it was about 30 acres, I think, and I made a lake on it and drilled a really good well. Y'all might have already drilled the well.
We had the well already done.
And but I built a lake that would hold water, and they had hunting there too.
Yeah.
And then I bought the property across the road from here from Dwayne Johnson. Should have bought it before Dwayne did, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't listen to Jeff.
So land can be a good opportunity for a lot of people. It can be a good investment.
At that time here, especially because it wasn't overpriced yet.
Well,
Is it overpriced everywhere though?
It is, but it might not be, because
yeah.
really, if you don't have a piece of land and you want some land for recreation and the fun of it, it's eventually going to be worth more than what you pay for it.
Right.
And so if you can afford to buy it, make the payments on it, I don't think you can go wrong.
I loved your St. Joe property.
It was a neat piece of property. I had an 8-acre soil conservation lake on it. I drilled 2 really good wells on it, lined 2 ponds on it, and had some really neat fishing in the small ponds, and had big bass and crappie in the lake. The only reason I sold it is I had required so much maintenance. It was taking me 2 days a week to maintain it.
Right.
And my buddies would go with me, and they'd go fishing and have a good time while I was working. And so I decided I was tired of owning a piece of property, and I sold it. And, you know, Jeff said, you can come out here anytime you want. John Ayers got 1,000 acres under high fence on the Brazos River at Newcastle. He said, you can come out here anytime you want. The guy that I'd sold my Hamilton properties says, you can come out here anytime you want. Pete Smith, another place at Hamilton, says, you can come to my place. I had all the places in the world I could go, and everybody wanted me to come because they knew I'd do some little project while I was there.
Or cook.
Or cook. But it wasn't the same as owning your own.
Right.
So I bought a piece of property at Sunset. I paid $210,000, $7,000 an acre for 30 acres. And I built a nice little house on it. Built the same house I had at Sunset, at St. Joe, only I built it nicer. I've got concrete porches and standing seam metal roof, and I flipped the floor plan because I got a different view. I built a 2-acre lake that you can see from the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was to put that place on the market today, I've got maybe 400,000 in it, and I'd put it on the market for $1.1 million, $1.2 million.
So in 2 years, when you sell it for $1 million, $1 million, $2 million, where are you going to go? Because
my daughter doesn't want me to sell it because it's less than an hour from her house. And,
so it's convenient
for
her.
Her and my granddaughter went up there last Saturday.
Right.
Just spent a day with a friend and went back.
So you're going to buy another place and flip. You're too wormy.
If I see something, but I don't need one, so it's going to have to be perfect. Now, when I walked on this piece of property at Sunset and walked over the hill, I could see everything I've got there. You need to come see it. You'd be impressed.
I've been impressed every place you've been.
And
I go through Sunset all the time, but I don't ever think about going to Sunset just to go to Sunset because I've been so busy.
How do you find this property?
I was driving down the road and
saw a sign. Really?
Yeah.
That area around Montague to St. Joe, that area is a beautiful area.
Yeah. Now, I have a real estate agent. I'll give her a commercial here. Teresa Stevens Lee out of the Brownwood area. She's the hardest working person I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
I looked for a piece of property. I've made offers. They turned it down. But when she came back to tell me they turned it down, she had 4 more pieces to look at.
She's a salesman.
And she works hard. Now, I've worked with other agents around here that they said, well, they countered it more than what they were asking for and didn't have anything else to look at. And they just say, what do you want to do?
So she's working her butt off for you.
She works hard, and I've referred her a lot of people, and they've all been happy.
I'll tell you some place I think is really fixing to take off is the land between Childress and Wichita Falls on the Red River.
That's good property up there, and I've been seeing it. There's a lot of land around Wichita Falls.
That shit's $5.
North of Bowie, right? Well, not compared to...
no, you get further west, it gets cheaper.
Yeah. You don't have to go very far west of Wichita Falls for it to start getting cheaper.
That Childress area, all along that Red River area right there, if you want to buy a place for deer hunting and stuff, that's a good area.
But, what is neat about Sunset is it's an hour from my house.
Right. Do you think that there will ever be a day where things kind of flatten out? Because, if you look at land prices out here, it is just skyrocketed. Do you think that we're ever going to get somewhere to where it kind of evens out, or do you think it's going to continue?
I think it's sort of flattened out right now because these places aren't moving like they were a year and a half ago.
Is that because of COVID, you think? Everybody coming from California?
I think people coming from California and with COVID, everybody thought it'd be nice to have a piece of land where I can go entertain myself, and that drove the prices up and drove it from $7,000 an acre in the Alvord Sunset area to $20,000. 22,000.
I think one of the problems is, or not problems, the reason why things are flattening out is the people that have a lot of money are holding on to it right now because they don't know what the fuck's going to happen. I'm not talking about the guy that's got $500,000 to $1 million in the bank. I'm talking about the guy that's got 10 million plus cash sitting around. I think a lot of them guys are scared right now.
Right.
I don't know if scared is the word. Is they're just very
They're
conservative.
just sitting back. And
Yeah, waiting
watching.
to see. Like the oil companies right now. You know, oil's $65 a barrel today. I'm surprised it's went back down. I really thought it was going to start skyrocketing. But a lot of those oil companies aren't spending money. You're still making money at $65 a barrel to drill. But they're not wanting to spend money drilling because they don't have a lot of faith in our government. They're not going to shut off all oil stuff.
Hopefully that's going to change soon.
Yes, hopefully 2024 we get a change. And that's what we need. We need, but that's the thing with Trump. Like, well, the economy, but yeah, because the companies and businesses had faith in the system. Nobody has faith in the system right now. There's not very many businesses out there that can look you right in the eye and say, well, I know damn well 10 years from now things are still going to be going, because they don't.
I'm glad I don't have to.
The builders. If I was a builder, I would be scared to death right now.
Well, now see, the builders have gone through this forever.
It's always up and down, up and down. But what scares me if I was a builder is, are we going to see prices increase to sign someone on a contract? I bet building contracts are different than they were 5 years ago before COVID, when all the...
I feel bad for anybody that was in the middle of a building project during COVID. Like that builder had to lose his ass, right? Because he had contracts already written up for what it was going to...
Lewis, how'd that work out with those guys? Did they...
I built a house during COVID.
Yeah, but you didn't have a contract, did you?
Well, yes and no. It was cost plus. So I had to pay the cost.
Oh, go pee.
Go. Yeah,
You don't have to write us in that. We're not live.
No, we'll be right
Lewis
back.
has to pee, folks. This is brought to you by Lewis
You can
Henderson
take
Insurance
take
Agency.
your headphones off, though. You can't take
Yeah, I
those
can't
with you.
take them.
No, you can't take those with you.
You notice I got up and left a couple times?
Yeah, I went and got up and left. Like, yeah, we're 2 hours in, Lewis. That's hard on me. While Lewis is gone, I saw there's no more Shannon. They bought him out.
I saw that.
Done. All over the DeMar Hamlin thing, I'm assuming.
I don't know if it... No. Do you think it's that, or when he jumped it, made an ass of himself at the basketball game?
No, I think he's still pissed off from that.
You think he's pissed off at Skip still?
Well, I think that set everything in motion.
I see
time.
what you're saying. It could be. You know what? I think Shannon Sharp would be funny to talk to, but he likes to pull the race card a lot on a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a lot of patience to deal with fucking Skip's ass. I can't understand why he wouldn't slap the shit out of him. But I notice he's keeping his Uncle Shay or whatever it is.
Uncle Shay.
And they go through June. I did not.
No, they go through the NBA Finals. Well,
That's
I mean,
June.
that might be June.
Yeah, that's what I saw. It goes through that, whatever that is. I wonder what's going to happen with Skip. He's making $8 million a year.
He can't do a show by himself.
No, fuck no.
And I don't think Shannon can either. Shannon would be fun. Problem is Shannon, you got to stay on script on those shows. And when Shannon interviewed Deion Sanders, it's hilarious. I mean, he's making fun of his toes, and he's a very funny guy.
He is. He seems very likable, especially that used to play ball with him.
But like whenever you've got a tight show and you've got to stay on point and you got to stay here and you've got 7 minutes for your monologue, and then we're gonna give him, and it's probably not even 7 minutes, but it's just different when you're on cable. But like when I see him just like doing off the cuff stuff, he's hilarious.
He Brett Favre
Suing him.
Yeah, big time. And I think
suing Pat McAfee too.
And they're going to lose it. Do you see where Pat McAfee's going with ESPN?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's signing a big contract with ESPN, like $17 million a year maybe.
Right.
But it's kind of interesting because he's not politically correct. And they're such a politically correct Disney place now. But they're struggling. They're doing all they can to put somebody on there to do it because they don't have anybody that nobody wants to listen to hardly anymore. Like Stephen A. Smith, nobody wants to listen to him.
Right.
I did realize him and Shannon him and Skip used to have a show together.
Yeah, they Fox got him from the ESPN show.
Yes.
First Take or something like that.
Yeah, and I never listened to it.
I never watched it, but so yeah. Fox Sports agrees to buy out Shannon Sharp, and Fox Sports agrees to buy out. I guess he still had 3 years left on his deal, but
you think he'll fade off, or do you think he'll stay on TV?
No, he'll do something else. I didn't realize he was such a late draft pick.
Oh, he was like a 6th round or 7th round pick.
Yeah, like he was nobody really.
And he wouldn't even got drafted if it wouldn't have been for his brother, probably.
Probably not.
and someone said, take him. He's a hell of a football player. He was a hell of an athlete. I wouldn't want to if I ran into him in a dark alley, I'd call him yes sir, no sir. He's a stout, big son of a gun.
Call him whatever you want.
I saw a guy that I don't know if it's who it was or not, but it was that Tyrone Smith, the Cowboys left tackle. Guy looked just like him and was a big man, a big, big, big man. And I was like, God almighty, I weigh 6'7", 350 pounds, and he wasn't fat, just a big, big man. But he was an NFL lineman somewhere, if that wasn't who he was. But that's what he looked just like Tyrone Smith. I think that's that guy's name.
Right.
So, Lewis, we
the builders, what did they? It was cost plus, you said?
Yeah, the builders that were cost plus.
Move this.
Plus,
drag this a little closer.
They stayed safe. They were covered.
The builders that were cost plus, yeah, they were covered, and they had some people might have had to slow down because it
couldn't afford
was
it
more than they wanted to pay because materials went out of sight and everything. But the guy that built my properties, he never missed a lick. He kept building.
So I've never built a house, but are there contracts where it's like, okay, I'll do this house for $250,000?
You can.
And that's the price that you agree on, hell or high water, $250,000.
You can, and I've done that twice in my life early.
Yeah.
And the guys both lost money on them. And the next two houses I built, next three houses I built, not counting the ones I built myself, but the next three houses that I contracted, they were cost plus, and I think they were cheaper than the houses could have been with people that would give you a price. Because when they give you a price, they're going to have a budget in there. Mm-hmm. And I promise your wife's not going to like that budget.
Was it cost plus 10?
Well, that's what he is now, cost plus 10 to 12. Now,
10 to 12
he gave me a good
percent.
Okay.
So
but he gave me a good deal on my first two houses, cost plus 8.
Yeah, cost plus 10, you build a $500,000 house, you're going to make $50,000 a contractor, and you're going to knock it out in a year. Is what the plan is.
See, my property, the house at St. Joe and at Sunset, he loved because he didn't have to wait on green tags and wait on inspections. Now, he built everything up to code, and they'd all pass any inspection, but he could schedule something, and that contractor would be there that day, and he could schedule the person to come in right behind it because
so we live in Hooterville. We don't realize all that stuff because we don't have to jack with it here.
And so a good contractor can schedule this stuff, and he built both of those houses in like 90 days.
Wow.
You think about it. If you're living in Dallas and your back porch you did at your house, you got to go down and get fucking
HOA.
Well, not just HOA. I'm just talking about just the simple.
Do you have an HOA where you live?
No.
Oh my God. I was reading something the other day. Well, Steve Barber had problems with his HOA. He parked his bass boat out, like it was in the driveway over the weekend or whatever, or parked it there on a Sunday and was going to move it on a Monday. Got a letter about it. Why anybody would go to a place with an HOA is beyond me. Somebody else, they were starting to get some weeds, and they got written up because, hey, we're starting to see weeds in your property, and according to your HOA, like you've got to get that taken care of.
I wouldn't mind that living on the block I live on because so many people don't clean up shit. And they got cars parked everywhere.
An HOA is one of those things, like a union. It made sense why people would do it in the beginning, but like now I think it's just people that don't have anything else better to do with their time that run up and down the block and look for shit to complain about.
It's people that's never had any power and they're exerting it and enjoying it.
No, yes. I agree with you on that. But we don't have to deal with codes and stuff here. Like Andy put a porch on his back porch on. If you do that, you got to go to the city and you got to get a damn a permit to do it. And then you got to have someone come look at it before. Then afterwards, I got to come inspect it. And then that's a pain in the ass.
They got to come 3 or 4 times. They got to come look at the wiring. They got to
also the city can make extra money.
Yep,
that's all it's about. Where they got a guy in Wichita Falls that drives around with the fucking ruler and goes to your yard, and if your fucking yard goes past the mark on his ruler, they're gonna put you a note in your box, and if you don't get it mowed within so many days, it's gonna cost you $150, $200, and that's all they do all day long. But I agree with that on a lot of things because I don't like people that don't take care of their shit. I take care of my shit.
Now, it can go the other way because I remember in De Leon, the city council passed a deal, And if people didn't upgrade a house and make it livable with a certain number of days, they had to bulldoze it, had to
Right.
tear it down. And boy, you talk about a tough ordinance.
Been on that end of them ordinances as mayor for a long time and as judge, and that is exactly right. But city ordinances are the only, I'm not going to say the only, but one of a very few laws and fines that a city gets 100% of the money on.
So they're happy that guy's running around with his ruler because
If
they're
they're
making
making
money.
money. See, like if you get a ticket for instance, and I don't know the statistics exactly, but no seatbelt tickets. Somehow, some lobbyist in the state of Texas figured out a way to get mad mothers against drunk drivers. Get about 70% of that fine goes to their organization. So if you get a ticket for no driver's license or no seatbelt, a big portion of that money goes to MAD. And if you get a ticket and a speeding ticket, I don't give a shit where you get it at, and say your fine's $300, the city's probably only going to get $50, and the state gets about $250 of that. But if you don't mow your fucking yard and you get a tip fine for $100, the city gets 100% of that money.
But the cities do deferred adjudication on the tickets, and so they get to charge the same amount for the ticket, and they don't have to send most of that money to the state at that point.
No, they get to keep the extra on the deferred. So, like, if you get a ticket and you defer it for an extra $100, so I used to charge $100, the city gets that $100.
Right.
But they still have to send the ticket money to the still. They don't get to keep it all. They got to pay off. Anytime you get a ticket, you get to pay it off.
I thought deferred adjudication, the ticket was gone unless you violated it.
They don't have to file it as a ticket, but they still get the
But I
extra
think that's what
money.
Lewis is
So
saying.
you don't have to send them the
No, I don't think so.
amount for the ticket.
The state ain't
Right.
going to fucking do anything
Right.
without getting their share. I didn't have to take care of that. Betty did always, but I think you still have to pay the state the same amount of money.
Right.
You just don't come with a driver's license number.
That's the reason it's so easy to get deferred in lots of places.
Fuck yeah, they wanted you make that extra money.
Right, yeah. The city wants you to take that.
I used to tell people all the time, don't take deferred because we're not a court of records because it's not going to be on your record anyways. You're wasting your money. Now, if you're an asshole, I wouldn't say that. I'd be like, okay, that's $100 extra. But I am but that's the ordinance money. That's where it is. Now, a little town like Knox City and all other little towns, they can't afford to hire a code violation officer because you got to pay them the same you do a police officer. Well, you got to write a lot of ordinance tickets to have a code violation. But at Abilene, Wichita Falls, Keller, Colleyville, where you live at, where the big bucks is, they can afford to pay a guy to do that. Imagine how many people in your town of Colleyville, how many people there get a code violation every day? There's somebody that does every single day, and that pays that guy's salary.
Yeah.
Our friends at Pacific Calls, they built a new place in Idaho, and some of the hoops that they had to jump through was ridiculous. I mean, they can't get their occupancy license because the ramp going out of the back door that nobody will ever go
It was
to.
a quarter-inch.
Quarter-inch, too short, too not steep enough, too steep. Either way, they had to rip it up and pour a new one. Their sinks had cabinets underneath them, so a wheelchair could not roll up to it. So that was a violation. That was something that they had to fix.
Common sense.
But
Listen,
I mean,
you come to a wheelchair, I'll wash your hands for you.
I mean, just the amount of red tape that those poor guys, and they're still going through it. I still don't think that they're 100%.
They can't have an event there because of parking or something.
Yeah, parking is. I mean, it's every logistical nightmare
A call
that,
company.
like, you could ever think of. Yeah, they're opening a call shop, and I mean, their poor guys are just getting run through the ringer.
I'll tell you another thing that I saw this yesterday. I saw a video. One of the guys that's on Shark Tank is a big New York billionaire guy, and he was on CNN.
Mr. Wonderful, the bald-headed guy.
No, it was a dark-headed guy, I believe. Anyways, he was being interviewed on CNN by the same lady that Trump made look like a dumbass in that town hall meeting, and she was like talking to him about open businesses, and
This
he
guy?
goes,
Robert.
where's
That's all you got, homie.
Hold on,
It's
hold
either
on.
him or Mark Cuban.
Yeah, well, I guess it was him. It was that Robert guy. I guess that is him, Robert. Yeah, I guess that is him. Anyways, he was on CNN the other day, and the lady asked. He said something about businesses in New York. He said New York City's toxic. There's nobody going to open up a business here. And he said New York, California, New Jersey, Illinois. He goes, nobody wants to open up a business in those places. And she's like, well, I think Kathy Hochul would disagree with you, the senator there. He goes, well, it's fact. He goes, she goes, was she debate him? He goes, I'd be more than happy to debate her right here. He goes, let me tell you something. He goes, Fargo, North Dakota. That's where you want to open up a business at. He goes, you don't want to go to places that have so much red tape, so much taxes. He said, AOC, she's a job killer. Look what she did to Amazon. He goes, these people do not want to have businesses in blue states. It just ain't going to happen at all. And he made a good point. And then I was reading all the comments, and a lady wrote a comment, and she goes, that's exactly right. She goes, we live in Fargo, North Dakota. Fargo, North Dakota is booming. Moorhead, Minnesota is across the river, and it's had no growth at all because of the difference of politics. And that's the same with the guys that opened at Pacific. You guys, I don't understand why anybody would put themselves in the middle of having to go through all that code shit if you're opening up a business like a manufacturing business and you can be 70 miles away. And I'm not talking about Pacific. I'm talking about, would you rather be in downtown Fort Worth opening up a business, or would you rather be outside of Wise County, somewhere outside of Decatur?
Well, you might have to do downtown Fort Worth because that's where the customers you're after.
Well, no. I'm talking about manufacturing where you're not selling to an open door.
But you still got to have the workforce.
Well, that
you
part
have
is
people coming to
true.
work.
But have you noticed how big Decatur's growing now?
Oh, yeah.
That fuckers don't even look like the same town it did 10 years ago.
And, of course, that's the same reason properties in Wise County and Montague County have gone out of sight.
And that's why you won't own that place in Sunset in 3 years. You can have Lewis down here in 3 years, and he will not own that place in Sunset. I've known him a lot. You got 30 more hunting seasons left, Lewis.
You got 30 more. It'll be 104 when it's all said.
He was
done.
awful depressed when I explained that to him, too. I said,
see there?
I seem to remember returning the favor to you.
Yes, you did.
When he turned 50?
For those that don't know, Harry that works for us has got stage 4 cancer, and he's in really bad shape. And that has been the biggest, the last couple of weeks, the mortality in my life I've really thought of more. And I saw a guy plowing a field yesterday, and I saw this tractor going in the field. Same field I've drove by thousands and thousands of times in my life. There's been 2 or 3 different people have farmed it over the 30 years I've been out here. And for some reason, watching that guy plow really bothered me. And I thought, 10 years from now, someone's still going to be plowing that field. 50 years from now, someone's going to be plowing that field. 70 years now, I'm not going to be here. And that plow's still going to be going. Someone's going to be plowing that shit. And the person that's going to be plowing it in 50 years is not even going to have a clue who used to farm it when I first moved out here. And just little things like that, I start thinking about, God, life is so, it happens so fast. And you don't realize, but Harry getting sick has really bothered me on thinking about dying more. I'm not scared to die. I think I'm going to go to heaven. I don't know. I've done some pretty questionable shit in my life, but I'm not worried about dying. I don't want to hurt, but just the fact is it's going to go on without you. And that's why you need to go shoot that grizzly bear.
Spend the money, Lewis.
I'm a tightwad. I'm not going to do it.
You need to do it, Lewis. You need to do it. Because it's something you want to do and it's something you can afford to do and you can't take it with you.
I haven't got any place to put it now.
Well,
Of course, you got some of my stuff out
got a lot of your
here.
mounts here. Yeah.
We got a place for the grizzly bear. Don't worry. Just shoot it and send it out here.
What?
Life is. I mean, I would be interested to know, like, since my kids have been born, since we've started the podcast, the last 5 years of my life have flown by faster than any time that I can remember.
Wait till you get older.
Yeah,
But I don't know if that. I mean, is that exclusive to me because of the life changes? Like, has everybody gone through that?
nope. It's a factor between the percent of time of your life.
Yeah.
And so when you're 74, mine's going 2-3 times as fast.
You're
as
just going
yours.
decades at a time, not
Yes,
5
yes.
years at a time.
Now, it's just like I said a while ago, a year or two ago,
Yeah.
it was prior to COVID.
Yeah.
So it was probably 5 years ago,
Right.
but it didn't seem like it.
Yeah. Somebody said they measured their life in dogs. They got to an age and they were like, I'm only going to have 2 more dogs.
That's what I did with the dove season with Lewis. When he was 50, I was like, damn, you probably only got 30 dove seasons
They were like,
left.
if every dog lives to about 10, like he's like, I probably only got like 2 dogs left
Yep.
in me.
Life, the older you get, the quicker it goes.
Yeah, roll a toilet
Waterfowl season just ended, but it really hasn't.
But that's what it seems like.
Yes, it
It
does.
seems like waterfowl. It seems like we just told the guys goodbye. And we're really we're staring at dove season.
Yeah, in 3 months, dove season starts.
Well, I mean, and all the prep work and all that stuff starts in 2.
Yep.
Speaking about that, I'm really excited about these 28 gauge shells that y'all are going to have with Boss.
There.
I am really looking forward to that for dove, and I want to get a couple of cases.
Well, I'm going to get you a couple of them. And they are excellent Stanfield 9s. They make a big difference. I shot 28 last year. I shot ducks with mine. Teal. Whew, whew,
Yeah, any small duck, you can shoot the 9s at them.
Man,
9s, 7s, or 9s.
Will be great for quail hunting and everything.
Yeah.
They got a lot of knockdown. As you get older, I damn sure don't want to shoot the big guns. I want to shoot 28 gauge. What amazes me, Lewis, most about you before we get off here, because we've been going for a long time, almost 2.5 hours. You still got the killer instinct. You want to kill shit.
I'm not near as mad at it as I used to be.
You're not?
No.
You used to be. The first one out the door, I mean, you wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's not that important to you no more.
Now, going to Bolivia and shooting 3,000 shells in 4 days.
Dove hunting?
Takes sort of your wanting to go dove hunting out.
Are you black and blue at the end of that?
No, you use a pass shooting pad and it doesn't bother you at all. It's amazing. How
Now, you're a really good shot, too.
I hit a few.
Yeah, no, you're a very, very good shot. What is, whenever you go down there, what's
your percentage?
What's your percentages, off the top of your head?
85-90%.
Whoa.
And Lewis is a good shot.
Oh, I know he's a good shot.
Well,
I've seen
now
him.
see, what you do is when you start watching them, there might be 30 birds coming by.
Right.
And you watch and look for 2 lined up.
Yeah.
And very often you'll get 2 when you shoot, and generally you'll get 1.
Right.
Occasionally you miss completely, especially if you're just shooting at 1.
Right. Right.
But when you got 2 together, you're probably going to get 1 of them. And we had one hunt the other day that there was twice I got 4 birds.
In one shot?
And with one shot.
Holy hell.
And about 4 times I got 3 birds, and I can't tell you how many times I got 2 birds.
Right.
Because they was coming by 30 to 50 in a flock, and it just happened to be at the right angle that you could get them lined up. And I might have shot 95% that afternoon.
Right.
I
Because
shot
you're
23
knocking-
boxes of shells that afternoon.
How many, what kind of birds are they shooting?
They call them ear dove, and to me, they're just a little bit smaller than our mourning dove, and they got a little check mark that looks like an ear on the side of the head. Other than that, they look a lot like a mourning dove, except you know how later in the season mourning doves start ducking and dodging.
Mm-hmm.
I think these things are hatched ducking and dodging.
They have to be.
And there's times they'll be coming at you and you're trying to get on it, and I'll just stop and laugh and won't even shoot.
It is crazy. There's a lot of times that, and I'm a terrible shot, but I'm serious. When they see me pull up, they're ducking and dodging way, way out there. And I don't need that. I need a straight flyer.
These birds are doing that, and we're
Yeah.
hid.
Yeah.
We're hidden.
Oh, you
And,
have to hide down there for dove hunting.
Yeah.
Not the back of the Chevrolet like in West Texas.
No, you can't sit on the tailgate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're actually in a blind.
You're doing it the real way.
They build a brush blind, and you stand behind it.
Do you shoot over spinners?
No, I'd like to take a mojo one time and see if it helps.
Yeah.
They make a big difference on the dove hunt. What is of all the places down there you go? Do they have parakeets and stuff down there?
Yeah.
Do you shoot those too?
They tell you to. I don't like to, and I don't shoot the parakeets
Because they're
most
worse
of
on
time.
the corn than anything.
Which they claim that they lose 20% of the grain crop to birds. And that's doves and parakeets mostly. And then, of course, they have big parrots also, which I definitely don't like to shoot them.
But you have.
I saw the first 2 flying.
I haven't shot
when
a
I was
big
in
one.
Costa Rica. I've never seen a parrot fly.
Oh yeah, big tails on them.
Well, they look like geese. They were they had their wings cupped up, and there was 2 of them. And I've never seen parrot. The only parrots I've seen have been
What
on
color were
somebody's
they, red?
shoulder. Yeah, red.
So
But the only parrots I've seen have been on somebody's shoulder, and you take a picture with them. So I've never seen parrots fly until Costa Rica.
The hotel we stay at in Santa Cruz, before we go out to the lodge, the parakeets roost under the eaves, and it's so loud you can't even hear yourself think, and you don't want to look up.
Yeah, no. You're shutting your eye.
In Brownsville, Texas, I think the Holiday Inn or something,
they've got 'em.
the parrots that stay there.
Same parakeets.
Is it parakeets that are there?
Yeah,
Yes.
the little green parrot.
Yep.
No, mine were parrots.
You saw the red
Yeah,
parrots.
they're
red parrot.
They're big
got the
ant
big
birds.
ones. Also, what's neat, we'll go out, and it's out in the country, of course, and it used to be rainforest, and a lot of times we'll hear monkeys,
Yeah.
and they've got emus, or actually I think they're rayas that are similar to an emu, and we've seen them, and tapirs and sloths, and see lots of interesting animals when you go.
Did you see any waterfowl when you were in Costa Rica, Andy? Any Mexican ducks or anything?
No. But we were in a lot of rainforest too, though. It was either
When-
rainforest or
When we
ocean.
went to Venice, on the way to the motel, little road, there's the fulvous tree ducks, a pair of them there.
right.
Them suckers are all over Wichita Falls now.
They're growing. They're expanding.
I brought you a pair
Yeah,
years
they're in
ago.
there, mounted
Did
in
they?
there.
I
Yeah.
want to look at them again.
But
I hadn't
do
seen
you
them.
have any at Sunset?
I hadn't seen any. I don't have many ducks at all. I'm surprised. I did have a pair of geese there the other day while my daughter was there, and they got out of the water and went to the deer feeder.
Yeah, they're smart. But the tree ducks are all over Wichita Falls. I've noticed seeing them lately. All right, I think Mom's here for lunch.
Been
Or
2.5
most of lunch,
hours.
the other lunch.
Listen, we need to cook.
Yep, let's go.
Lewis, thank you so much for
Appreciate
coming out.
everything.
This has
I
been a lot of
enjoyed it.
fun.
A great friend. I hope you come up and see us more. I'll get you them shotgun shells. Love you, man, and I appreciate so much everything you've ever
I
done
hope
for
you
us.
have 20 more hunting seasons in you.
Well, I'm impressed with what y'all have done with your business, Jeff. Y'all
Well-
have worked hard, and you've earned every bit of it.
Well, I appreciate that much. I don't really remember much hard work, so I remember a lot of fun times.
I know you've sweated bullets from time to time.
Oh, I still do every year.
Just not when it's not raining. Stress levels get high. But so anyway.
It is what it is. It's part of life. I could have went other courses. And I should have followed that amateur gynecology career and turned that into a doctor deal, and I didn't. So, got to make the most of this.
Before 5, it's a vagina. After 5, it's a pussy.
Yep.
Thanks
what
for
they say.
thinking of me.
Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate y'all listening to us. Go over to Patreon, the Big Honker Podcast. It's $3 a month. Behind the scenes video. Andy released the first videos today. One of them's 3 minutes long.
They were all around the 3-minute mark.
First two are a minute long. I looked at him, Andy. Andy doesn't have a very good memory. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. Have a great weekend.
Boys and girls, go check out our sponsors. Check out Lucky Duck, Ducks Unlimited, Double T British Kennels, Mossberg, Stanfield Outfitters, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Boss Shot Shell, Dive Bomb Industries, Pacific Calls, Dirty Duck Coffee, Looking Glass Podcast, and Shin Gear.